call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we've called to order the Town of Kensington Council meeting for Wednesday, October 8th. Before we go further, I just want to announce that Councilmember Lichter is not here. She is traveling this week and unable to attend the meeting. Okay. Moment of silence. Is there anyone we should bring up? Probably the Anderson family. The funeral is Saturday. So anyone else?
Maybe also the other family that was affected by the other pedestrian death.
Up on Bears Mill.
Ganga Prajapati and their family.
Okay. We can bow our heads. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move down. Council, excuse me, you all received a copy of the minutes. I didn't see any edits. If I can get a motion to approve.
Sure. I move that we approve the minutes from the September 10th Town Council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Connor, do you want to introduce number one?
Yes. So with us tonight online, we have two presenters, Kirsten Bozak, who's from the Maryland Department of Disabilities, and Chris Rogers, who's with the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. They are here to talk about an initiative called Playgrounds for All, but also to talk about the importance of inclusive play and inclusive playgrounds around the state of Maryland, and especially within Montgomery County, which has surprisingly a bit of a dearth in inclusive playgrounds. And this will dovetail right into our ordinance and resolution section when we go to talk about proposed budget items for enhancements to St. Paul Park. And so I think, Alex, you have their slides.
Did you want to introduce them or?
So yes, I'm going to let Kirsten or Chris, if you all want to introduce yourselves and what your roles are with each of those agencies and kind of what like MDOD's role is in the initiative and what the council's role is in the initiative, that would be terrific.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for having Chris and I here tonight. I'm Kirsten Bozak. Kudos for you on saying my name correct. It's not often.
Chris prepped me.
Chris been practicing.
Chris prepped me very clearly.
It's great. But yeah, thank you so much for having us here and allowing us time in what I know is probably a very busy council meeting to talk about this initiative with you guys and why inclusive play is so important in our state as a whole and in Montgomery County especially. So I don't want to dive too much into the presentation, but I am with the state of Maryland. I am with the Department of Disabilities. We are a cabinet level office focused on cross disability policy. We are unique in that we are the only cabinet level office on disability in the nation. So we are unique that we have a seat and the opportunity to meet with the governor pretty frequently and get our to him directly. And so our role really within this initiative is working on policy changes at the state level and at the local community level as well, and supporting a lot of what the DD Council does. And so I will turn it over to Chris to introduce himself. So thank you again for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Kirsten, and thank you to Councilmember Crimmins and everyone else here for allowing us to share a little bit about what we're doing. I'm the Director of Engagement for the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. We're an independent state agency that creates change and improves the lives of people with developmental disabilities so they can live the lives they want with the support they need. And Recreation is a really important part of our state plan, as it is for the Department of Disabilities. And all recreation kind of starts when you're a kid and you're going out on the playground. And there's a lot of benefits that come from, being able to play with, everyone around you. And so that's kind of where this project started. And we're excited to share our work with you and talk a little bit about Montgomery County and Kensington.
I can see the slide deck. I don't know if this is the format it's normally in for your council meetings, but it looks like I don't. Maybe it is presentation mode.
Yeah,
sorry.
we can see it just fine. It just helps with navigation.
Awesome, perfect. Could you actually go back one slide for 1 second? So again, I'm Kirsten. I forgot to mention I am the Director of Health and Behavioral Health Policy within the department, and this work falls under my health portfolio under our inclusive recreation. But today we're here with you all. Again, thank you for the time to discuss our Playgrounds for All initiative. And we really hope that at the end of this presentation, you have a better understanding of inclusion, accessible versus inclusive. You have an understanding of what our framework is about and how to use the MAPS tool, and how you can put some of these ideas into practice in your own communities. So on this slide here, we have an image of Laura's Place Playground in Howard County. This is an inclusive playground that Howard County did private and public funding for. It is a massive playground. We know not everyone has the budget for a playground quite this size, but if you ever have the opportunity to go, it has a lot of wonderful elements and could be scaled to fit a playground in your community. So that is the picture on the slide. Next slide. And here is a mission at the Department of Disabilities. We're changing Maryland for the better by promoting equality of opportunity, access, and choice for Marylanders with disabilities. And we have several photos on this slide: a family with a guide dog, a young woman holding her diploma, a young woman holding her Special Olympics medals, and the final picture is the former Lieutenant Governor Rutherford with an advocacy partner. Next slide.
So, as Kirsten said, this is a joint project between the Department of Disabilities and the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. I mentioned that we are an independent state agency. We are led by people with developmental disabilities and their family members. Our mission is to create change to make it possible for people with developmental disabilities to live the lives they want with the support they need. And our vision is that people with and without disabilities in Maryland live, learn, work, and play together. And Playgrounds really ties in perfectly with our vision. Next slide.
So why did we pick Playgrounds as this project evolved? Well, first and foremost, we were hearing a lot of feedback from constituents across the state of Maryland that there were not playgrounds in their communities for their families to play at. And we know that there are lots of benefits to playing. You have the opportunity to develop social skills. You can try new things in a safe place. You can build independence. You can develop relationships. Lots of positive factors go into those kind of early development stages of life and learning. And so they are kind of a critical component of growing up. And we were hearing that Maryland needed more of these playgrounds. So we took that information and we started to think about how we could really impact change across the state. And we worked with the DD Council and decided that we felt like we both had these shared goals on our state plans of inclusive recreation and health and how we could impact the state. And so we looked at designing a framework, which was the first portion of our playground project. And so we spent almost over a year working on developing the framework, pulling resources, really getting up to speed on all of that. And we decided the framework was the first piece. And we really wanted the framework to focus on the fact that while we appreciate that the ADA is around and provides us guidelines, the ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act, is really a minimum standard. And with this project, we are hoping to go beyond the minimum standard and really aim for inclusion, which goes a step beyond what is compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Next slide.
So, as Kirsten said, we now have this Playgrounds for All website, which we launched in mid-September, just a few weeks ago. And it's built off of the initial framework that we released in 2023 and is made up of 3 different sections. So the first section is just about what inclusive playgrounds are. We define what they are, talk about the difference between accessible and inclusive, which I'll go into more detail on in a moment, and then talks about the benefits of inclusive playgrounds, why it's important for children with and without disabilities to play together and build those social connections and have a shared space in their community where everyone feels welcome. Next in the website is a series of toolkits, resources for planning and designing and implementing playgrounds in your community. This is designed both for local officials like yourselves, as well as for community members who may want to start a grassroots effort to create playgrounds. So there's something in there that's kind of tailored for everyone who would be a part of this process. And then finally, we compiled a list of publicly accessible playgrounds that we feel provide meaningful inclusion opportunities for everyone. So that means everyone with and without disabilities can access everything on the playground. And we'll go into more detail on the map later on. Next slide. Thank you. So accessible is not the same as inclusive. If you take a look at these 2 slides or 2 photos, the one on the left is kind of an older playground. It has mulch surfacing around it. It has an older structure with stairs going up, some basic swings, grass all around it. And then the one on the right has unitary surfacing, as we call it, poured in place rubber. It has a ramp up onto the structure and shade. It has a merry-go-round that's at grade, at ground level. And so you can see there's a big difference between these 2 playgrounds. But the one on the left, could be considered ADA accessible. So the ADA says that engineered wood fiber, which is a type of mulch, when maintained properly, is accessible. If you ask someone in a manual wheelchair to go over engineered wood fiber, they will probably disagree with that statement. And so that's kind of the basis for a lot of our work, that there really are a lot of playgrounds out there that meet the basic accessibility standards, but not many that are truly inclusive. And a playground is only inclusive if everyone can access all parts of it without a challenge. So it's not inclusive if someone's going to be stuck on the sidelines, or if they're stuck at ground level because they can't get up onto the structure, or they're stuck watching their friends on the swings because there's no adaptive swing, or if there's no pathway for them to even get to the playground. So we like this photo on the right because it highlights a few different things that we are really aiming for in inclusive playgrounds, obviously with the caveat that every community is different and we're not looking for the same exact thing in every community. It's really whatever works best for you guys. But we have the unitary surfacing. We have a ramp up onto one of the structures. So, a child or an adult in a wheelchair or using a walker or other mobility device would be able to get up and access some of those things. We also talk about the importance of sensory-friendly equipment, which there isn't a great example in this either photo here, but something like music-making equipment or something that spins, a little ground-level device that someone can spin that meets some of the sensory needs of some people as well. So we really think that inclusive playgrounds like the one on the right help foster independence and risk management, and they promote health and wellness, providing opportunities to be active, and they increase social participation and allow everyone to socialize together, which is really, really important for, especially in childhood development. Next slide.
Sorry, I had to mute myself because my dog is going wild. So on the page here, you can see the front of our framework, which is the document we created to start this project. This document was really created for locals, municipalities, organizations, and individuals to use as a starting point to advocate for the need for more inclusive playgrounds in their communities, and gives some starting information on how to make these inclusive spaces. It gives tips and resources, and it gives recommendations on how to engage your disability community, which is very critical and something we talk about a lot, and we will talk about it more later on. Next slide. Chris, is freedom of choice me? Sorry. So on the slide here, we talk about one of the examples that we include in our framework, which is freedom of choice. And freedom of choice, you might be thinking, like, what does that mean? It really is the idea that a person has the choice of choosing where and how they want to play and who they want to play with. And we focused on this because oftentimes individuals with disabilities don't really have a choice in the playgrounds that they play at or the play equipment that they can play with when there are these barriers to play. So having a bank of swings all together with a wheelchair accessible swing or a accessible swing that has extra trunk mobility support is going to allow people with disabilities and people without disabilities to play together all in one section, as opposed to having maybe the accessible swings in a section completely by themselves, or where we sometimes see it where the swing might be even outside of the playground or in a different section of the park. And this means that they're not getting to engage with their peers in the same way. They have to go to a different section of the playground or separate from what their peers are doing at that time. And so freedom of choice is ensuring that when you're designing these play spaces, you're really thinking about, are they going to have the options to play with their peers when we design where the swings are? Are they going to have options of slides to go down that? Are they going to have options of sensory equipment to play with? So they're not limited to one section or one single solitary item on the playground. And then bigger concepts of freedom of choice are these ideas that if there is not an inclusive playground in your community, then your community is going to go outside and find those play spaces in other counties or cities. And so we really want there to be freedom of choice, that families can play in their own communities with the people that they're around and working and playing with. And so freedom of choice is a small idea, but also a very big idea too. Next slide.
So another example from our toolkits focuses on universal design, which is the process of creating something to be as functional as possible for as many people as possible. So when it comes to playgrounds, that means creating a space that benefits everyone, is safe and enjoyable for everyone, and makes everyone feel welcome. So There's 7 different principles of universal design. We won't get into all of them right now, just for the sake of time. But one of the main ones is equitable use. So that means the space is usable to people of all different abilities. So in this example on the screen here, it's an overhead shot of a playground. And you can see that there's a large ramp kind of through the back center of the playground up onto the large structure that's on the right. And so that's the type of thing that benefits everyone. Obviously, we're talking about mobility for people who use wheelchairs or walkers, but also think about a mom with young kids in a stroller who's able to now go up onto the playground and interact with her kids up there and watch her kids up there while keeping her baby in the stroller with her. So this kind of universal design really benefits everyone. Simple and intuitive use is another important one. So making it clear where the playground is, where to go, what spaces there are available. Some other examples of universal design in this photo that we like. All of the swings are together on the left-hand side. So we have the traditional swings and the adaptive swings next to each other, like Kirsten was mentioning in the last slide. We have a large shaded area, both over the main playground structure and then also over another structure to the left, which is calming, it's welcoming, it allows people to play and enjoy themselves without overheating. And the big thing that we really believe in is that on an inclusive playground, all of the coolest parts or the most exciting parts of the playground are accessible to everyone. That's a big part of universal design. And, I think that's really true in this playground. You have the big ramp up, so that means everyone can access it. There's lots of different things to do up on that main structure. So if you're looking for something that's more sensory focused, there's activities up there. If you want to take the slide down, you can do that. Looks like there's a roller slide. So this, I think, is a really good example of universal design and how it is welcoming and inclusive of everyone. Next slide.
And the final section that we're going to talk about from our framework tonight is forming a committee. And this is a point that we talk about a lot, and that is primarily that you should be including your community, people with disabilities in the conversation and the planning, designing, and building of these playgrounds. They are going to be the best storytellers of what's going to work for them or what's not going to work for them. And they may have solutions that you don't even think about, and they know their disability best. So it's really important that you include them in these conversations. And the more that you include them, the more value they're going to see in these play spaces when they're designed, and they'll be used. And that's a really important part. And so, we both at the Department of Disabilities and the council are always happy to kind of weigh in on things, but we would always prefer to connect you with your disability community partners and individuals with experience to help you with this project. Next slide. So putting it all together, this is a playground here in Maryland. This is, sorry, Chris, this is one of your playgrounds, so I forgot the name.
John Lancaster Park in St. Mary's County.
In St. Mary's County, thank you. Yeah, so Chris and I and our colleague Bong divvied up all the playgrounds that we received in the state and went out and surveyed them. But we thought this was a good example here in Maryland of an inclusive play space that puts all of these ideas that we just talked about together. So unitary surfacing, it has a ramped multi-play unit. The coolest thing is accessible. On the far right-hand side near the fence, you can see some sensory items, as well as a merry-go-round that is ground level as well. It has some shade structures and other features that we really like. And so there are ways to implement some of these practices that we have talked about tonight in smaller ways. It doesn't have to be a grand playground that's lots and lots of money. You know, a few pieces that everyone can access and play with is going to be really impactful and enjoyable by all. Next slide.
So I touched on earlier how we put together a map on our Playgrounds for All website. And so here's a zoomed out version of the map, as well as the icon key that we put together. So starting last fall, we reached out to every county and municipality in Maryland to ask for a list of playgrounds that had accessible or inclusive features. I want to give Alex a shout out because she responded to that right away and said that Kensington was working on updating St. Paul Park. And so I'm very excited that we're here tonight talking about this. After we received these lists, members of our team went out to look at each one. We didn't have a strict checklist. We know that communities have different needs, budgets are different, but we had a few things that we were looking at. So unitary surfacing rather than mulch is important. We wanted meaningful access to all the equipment. So whether that means ramps onto some of the equipment, so people using wheelchairs or walkers could use them, sensory equipment, then as well as ease of access to the playground. So is there accessible parking nearby? Is there public transit? Accessible restrooms? What does that look like? So not all the playgrounds that we received made the list, unfortunately, as we were looking for ones that really went above and beyond and promoted full inclusion. But we made a map of the ones that we felt fit that criteria and promote the most inclusion for everyone, and then put together a key to denote what each playground has, sorted into 4 categories, as you see here. So there's the play section that highlights ramps and movement equipment and communication boards, sound making equipment. There's the rest area, so that's benches on the side, shade, transportation, getting there. Is it free? Is it easy to find? Is there accessible parking? And then personal needs, so accessible restroom, changing table. Not every playground has all of these things. If you look at the list, you'll see that some have more icons than others. But these are just some standout features that we thought families would like to see at a glance as they're looking for a playground. We hope to add more playgrounds as time goes on. This is a living website. You'll notice on the map, if you zoomed in, there wouldn't be any in Montgomery County right now. Kirsten and I are both Montgomery County natives, and so I would love nothing more than to get some Montgomery County playgrounds on this website. We're hoping that when all is said and done, there are playgrounds in every county on this map. There's a lot of communities that I think would benefit from this that don't have access to one right now. Hi, Diana.
Hi, I thought Hadley's Playground on Falls Road in Potomac was a
Yes.
literally groundbreaking model for exactly what you're describing, admittedly in an earlier time, but that doesn't count anymore?
So Hadley's
Thank
Playground
you.
is fantastic. That's a great question. We really liked that one. It has all of the equipment and everything else that we were looking at. It has rubber tile surfacing that is pretty old and cracked, and as a 30-year-old pretty athletic person, I was tripping over things getting to the playground, and so we have talked with Montgomery County Parks and said, if it wasn't for the surfacing, this would be perfect. This would make the list, but we want to make sure it has fully inclusive surfacing and accessible surfacing.
I would be happy to put something in the chat. I don't see a chat, so I don't mean to break into the meeting and your presentation. So I'll just put my hand down and hopefully we can talk later. But I do have some questions, particularly about heat and toxicity. Thank
Yeah. Yeah, I think that covers it on the map. Thank you, Diana, for your question. Next slide. So that covers a little bit about our work, our Playgrounds for All website. If you scan the QR code on the screen or follow the link that's on the screen, you'll access the website, which has all the resources and toolkit and map that we've talked about. And then, yeah, we're happy to answer any questions or talk further.
Yes, we will have an opportunity for questions.
Kirsten and Chris, thank you very, very much. I don't know if you want to go through your acknowledgements.
We can skip the acknowledgements, but if you go to the next page, it has both of our contact information. If anyone wants that, we're always happy to answer questions that way.
Perfect. I want to thank you both for taking the time to go through the presentation and to really highlight, right? There are accessible playgrounds and there are inclusive playgrounds, and there is a big difference between both. And what we had envisioned for the town of Kensington, right? We have a playground that is, built within the last 10 years that has engineered wood fiber that is accessible. But what we envisioned with phase 1 and phase 2 was to transform it from meeting that minimum standard for ADA accessibility into truly an inclusive playground, something that is multi-generational, something that is, both neurodivergent and for disabled and non-disabled kids to be able to play together. We've looked at a lot of reports. We've looked at everything that everybody has emailed us, but we've also looked at the studies that talk about the emotional and psychological benefits that are derived from children with disabilities and their families when they have a place to play and where they can be included. And so that was the vision that we set out for this playground. But I did want to just say thank you to both of you for taking the time to join us tonight. And so Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Council, do you all have any questions for our presenters?
I personally don't. I'd like to hear the questions from the audience. I'd have a couple
Follow up.
points I'd like to make eventually, but.
Okay, Stuart, did you have any immediate questions or do you want to come back after?
Yeah, just a couple questions, maybe a question for Chris. I'm not sure which of the right people is to field it. You mentioned a couple times about inclusive play surface, and it seems to me that's a lot of the concern that's being raised. In your mind, do you have, all things being equal, do you have a preference for inclusive play surfaces, or do you prefer corking or whatever?
Yeah, so we have, our phase 1 was pour in place surface, just a traditional rainbow rubber kind of surface. We have other quotes, right? Of everything from engineered wood fiber to doing phase 2 with the same pour in place rubber surfacing, or with corking, which is another pour in place product, but the filler and the top layer product are both made from natural cork. So we're evaluating all three based on feedback from the community. But to Councilmember Sparker's question, is there one particular that I think you guys prefer? Or is it just the kind of poured in place versus loose fill materials?
I would say it's poured in place over loose fill is our preference. Loose fill is very hard for someone with a mobility disability to navigate. We see a lot of poured in place rubber, which is really good. I'm not as familiar with the corking, but I don't know if Kirsten is. But yeah, anything that's kind of unitary and is going to be smooth and easy for everyone to navigate is our preference.
Yeah.
Have you seen? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, I have seen some more about the corking coming out. as an option. But to Chris's point, yeah, anything that there isn't going to be a threshold is really critical. So sometimes we'll get to a playground and it has port in place, but there may even be like a small lip all the way around. There might be an entrance, but then there's like a small lip all the way around. And that's also a factor to think about in these different options. But ultimately, to Chris's point, the loose fill in whatever shape or form, rubber, mulch, whatever that looks like, that ends up being the barrier for people getting to the playground and playing in a meaningful way.
That's great. Thanks for the additional commentary. I appreciate it.
Okay. I see the hand up. Is that Conway? It's hard for me to.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms.
It
Conway.
is. I feel like I'm monopolizing. I don't want to do that, but my name is Diana Conway. I'm president of something called Safe Healthy Playing Fields, and we have a lot of the same goals, which is accessibility, but also safety. We're a nonprofit, national nonprofit, but we started as focused on fields, sports fields that should be grass and well-maintained grass versus plastic, which has a higher injury rate, also known as artificial turf, but they're plastic. So the question I have, I love the idea of a cork surface, but the issue with plastic fields that brought us to playgrounds is the common denominator of the rubber, which is usually made out of shredded waste tires. So I know we're not talking about plastic fields tonight, but a typical plastic field has 40,000 shredded waste tires, and they lose 10% per field per year. So that's going somewhere. So the question on playgrounds, traditionally I've lived here for 30 years, and Hadley's Playground has always been right down the 2 miles down the road from me. I've spent many, many hours with my 3 kids and all their friends there and seen the different iterations. I've felt the heat. I've smelled the smells that off-gas from the plastics and the tire when it's 80 degrees, 100 degrees. Those playgrounds get very hot, which is an accessibility issue for everyone. With climate change, we're going to have more hot days and more hot hours per day. They get 60 degrees hotter than ambient temperature. Soil tends to stay 5 to 15 degrees hotter than ambient temperature, but plastic playgrounds and fields can get 50 to 60 degrees hotter. And then there's the issue with playgrounds in particular of young children. They're on their hands and knees, they're falling, they're rolling, they're playing. So young children don't know how to advocate for themselves the way a high school student does, and just says, "I'm hot, I've got a blister," whatever it is, or "my shoes are melting," which has happened in Texas a lot. Cleats are melting on these fields. So I would like to hear something addressing, and maybe cork is the answer. You put some kind of springy surface underneath and then cork on top, but putting kids on top of tires are considered hazardous waste. If you take them and color them and bind them down and put kids on them day after day on their hands and knees, I mean, it just seems insane. And to say that's accessibility and it's good for everyone, I mean, our kids are already so front-loaded with toxicity from everything else that we're reading about. It turns out that tires are the unique source of a chemical called 6-PPD, which is 95% mortality rate for the coho salmon up and down the West Coast. That's been a recent Washington University study that was peer-reviewed and published, and it seems very unlikely that coho salmon are uniquely vulnerable to this chemical. The entire U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association is spending millions of dollars trying to find a substitute for 6-PPD because they see the writing on the wall. But in the meantime, we're putting it potentially on playgrounds in hot pink, literally hot, saying it's an accessibility thing. So my children are not disabled, but we had many friends and children of friends who are, and I've seen the struggles. I have huge sympathy for the work you're doing, and I am grateful for your efforts to do this. I just want to make sure we're doing it in the way that actually meets the purpose without unintended consequences or what's called an unfortunate substitution. And so I just hope that you will address both the heat and the toxicity of the materials. It's called clean rubber or recycled or virgin, but it's all the same chemicals. It's endocrine disruptors and PFAS, these forever chemicals in the Teflon, heavy metals, and the science has been out there for decades on what's in tires.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me go on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathy?
Yes, I'm Kathy Michaels. I live over in Wheaton, and just wanted to it's following up on what Diana Conway just said, just give you some of my personal experiences. When my a while ago, when I was on a committee for playground surfacing for the Wheaton Recreation Center, and it was really interesting because it was before Zoom came in, so all of our meetings were in person, and all the vendors came to us in person with their samples, and all of the tire rubber options immediately went out as soon as they would bring the samples in because of the smell. I mean, everybody got it as soon as, I mean, even in an air-conditioned conference room, the smell from the tire waste on the samples that they brought in was very clear. There were other options, which aren't being considered for these playgrounds, but sometimes ours, the plastic carpeting, and one of the committee members actually showed how that would go up in flames very quickly. So that went out very quickly. But one of the main, anything with the tire waste was just thrown out immediately because of the what the committee members were experiencing, just as far as smelling it, and the information that we had at the time about the off-gassing of volatile chemicals from tires. But then the other thing was all of the vendors who came in and with either the tire rubber, or there was virgin rubber tiles or blocks that one of the vendors had. Every single one of them said, we strongly recommend a shade structure over the whole area, because these will, a rubber plate, whether it's the virgin rubber or the tire rubber, gets incredibly hot. And I had already experienced that with my own kids there were some of the new, some of the playgrounds were starting to come into, where they put in the tire rubber. Unfortunately, when they put in the playground there, I had said, look, if let's try to go with the engineered wood fiber, which at the time was still kind of, I think they were still working it out. Now, engineered wood fiber is much better as far as if it's installed correctly, it's accessible and meets ADA requirements. But I say if you insist on putting in the virgin rubber, they had already decided that the tire rubber was out because of the clear off-gassing chemicals, that they make sure, like the vendors recommended, to put shade over the whole thing. Well, what they ended up doing is putting in the virgin, these rubber blocks, and putting little shade structures over the top of the slide, so not over the surfacing, and a nice big shade structure over the concrete bench areas where the parents would sit.
Okay.
And this has been,
I don't want to cut you off, but
my experience is just, so what I'd like you to
Yeah.
address is the heat. I mean, a lot of the examples you showed had little shade structures here and there, but I've experienced with both my kids and other people that I've been at playgrounds with, is that these get hotter, way hotter than asphalt.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Does anybody else want to make a comment in the audience? Beth?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can wait my turn, but I can
No,
also
go ahead.
comment too. Okay, so I am a Kensington resident. I actually, worked with the town to really push for these parks. We have 3 daughters who are all very young and still very much playground age. Our middle daughter, Victoria, has cerebral palsy, so she walks in a gait trainer. And we frequent St. Paul Park every day. It is an everyday activity, is our home away from home. It is our community. It is the people that were there for us when she was in the hospital for 3 months. They are our people at that park. And that's where we met a lot of them, from that park. Luckily, we live in an amazing community that people raise their kids and they will come up to Victoria. Before the park was made, Victoria could only be on the blacktop because she was not able to go on the mulch. She was not able to go on any structure. And I heard about the heat. Since the playground has been done, we've had no problems with heat. Our other 2 kids run around, and I would say the asphalt is actually more hot than what the ground covering is at St. Paul Park. I can only speak to St. Paul Park. I do know Hadley's Park. We frequent there too, but the ground covering is she would flip over in her gait trainer if she tried to go on certain parts of that park. Which why I think the ground covering at the St. Paul Park is amazing. It really has provided a space for all 3 of my kids to play together. There were times before where I'd have to be over on the blacktop and then I'm sending someone over to find my other child because I can't see her because of all the things in place. And, she was like 2 or 3 at this time. So it has created an environment where safe, where I feel like all my kids are safe. They're all together. I can see them all. I'm watching all of them. I will say my other 2 fall frequently, and the ground cover has not caused any type of cutting or anything like that when they fall. It is actually very padded and gives a little bit of resistance. So, rather than getting a cut or something from the mulch, I haven't seen any of that. My main thing I think that I love so much about St. Paul Park now, because of what has been done to it, is the piece that I think, Kristen, you were sharing about. I can't remember exactly what you called it, but the choice. Before, Victoria had limited options that she could go choose. She is going up to new kids now. She's saying hi to kids. Kids are up, coming up to her, asking her questions about her device and what she's walking in. And, how can they play with her? There's multiple options. She goes to the music. She goes to the spinning thing. She goes all over the playground and really has so much more access to the choices that she makes, which are amazing. Yes. She just fell out of the chair. Sorry. So I will just say this, as her parents and as a community and everything like that, I really appreciate what Kensington has done to do this and to really make this a priority for all families. So Victoria goes to physical therapy every Wednesday at a place that is very well known in our area. And her therapist has actually heard from many families in the area what an incredible change St. Paul Park has been for their family. Something that's close. Typically we would have to drive to McLean to go to a park at Clement Jontry Park, or Rio does have a pretty good park there now that I don't know if it's considered inclusive and accessible. But now we can literally just walk right down the street and our daughter has an opportunity to play with everyone. And make those social relationships that you all were talking about. And it really has been allowed kids of all abilities to play together. So, I'm very grateful for the town for doing this. Chris and Kristen, I so appreciate the push that you are doing within the state of Maryland. It's incredible work. And hopefully in the future, there's some way that I'll be able to support and help with that too. But without the ground cover and without the structures that have been put in place at St. Paul, it has changed our park experience just incredibly and made it safer. It's made it more fun. It's made it, a place that we can connect with many more people too. And we really feel like we belong. So we really appreciate that.
Great.
Such a
thank you,
beautiful comment, and I hope you get a chance to look at Greenbrier Local Park. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Greenbrier Local Park. It's in Travilla. It's just off Travilla. It's about 30 years old. Excuse me, 30 acres. It's about 10 years old, but they've got a unitary surface that unfortunately they had to replace because it was crumbling so fast it was going down into the stream. But there's there's a natural grass field. There's a stream right below. There's a whole path. And again, I just feel like the Parks Department and the disability community have done incredible work moving this forward.
Mhm.
I'm just
Yeah.
concerned that putting in this particular surface, if there is not even objection among the industry that these plastic surfaces are hotter than blacktop. So the coolest
Thank you very
is
much.
water, then grass, then white concrete, then blacktop, and then the plastic.
Okay,
The
thank
hottest.
you.
If I just want to respond to Beth. Beth, thanks for coming. Genevieve, thank you for the comic relief. Miss G in the background. But Beth and Charles and their girls live literally 5 doors down from me, same street, same bus stop. Our kids go to school together. It for me, it really was an issue of my 6-year-old, 5-year-old at the time, daughter Aoife, who was in class with Victoria, who, we went to the park, and to Beth's point, the only surface that Victoria could play on was the blacktop. But the blacktop's also our basketball court. And so when kids are playing basketball, it kind of meant there was nothing for Victoria other than the walking track. And so there were days we would see the Wirtz walk to the park and maybe 10 minutes later leave, as opposed to the 45 minutes or an hour that they would normally be there. And when your 5-year-old daughter turns to you and has the presence of mind to say, that's not fair, why can't Victoria play? And then has the presence of mind to say, can't you fix that? Yes, and that's what we've done. Diane, I hope you get a chance to come to Kensington and see phase 1 and realize that we were very intentional about how we designed it, that our phase 1 of ours has 100% natural tree shade cover. It does not get the heat that others do.
I used to live
acknowledge
on
that
Meredith Avenue, just off of
can.
Capitol View.
I also acknowledge that Corking, Corking does a much better job, right? It can be 20 degrees cooler as an all natural surface. Phase 2 is largely shade covered for the majority of the day as well. These were things that we consulted with families on, we consulted with experts on, we looked at the design. We were very purposeful, knowing that it's not just the ground cover, right? Slides, the zip line, the fire truck, the teeter totter, the little frog and the little duck, they all get hot in the sun, right? We are very fortunate that we're also a huge proponent of trees, and we have an amazing tree canopy at St. Paul Park, and we have tucked this playground right underneath those trees. So when Beth, that was one thing I really appreciate you saying, like, my kids, your kids, all the kids from the bus stop are running around. I don't know why my kids take their shoes off. But we have not, I acknowledge that heat can be a problem. I've been to those parks where it's beautiful. They put them into big old fields, but they don't have the shade cover. And it's a different experience. But get a chance, Diana, come on over to Kensington and see, how amazing it can be when you have a fully inclusive playground underneath full shade canopy.
I'm in. I look forward to it. Thank you, sir, for the invitation.
Anybody in the room?
You have to go up to the podium. Just give your name and your street, just the street, not the number.
Good evening.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Good evening. I'm Charlie Geyser. I live on Calvin Lane in Kensington, and I go to Stonebridge School of the Sacred Heart. I'm in 8th grade, and this is my essay about the need for inclusive playgrounds. An issue that is usually overlooked but important to focus on is whether we should make more inclusive playgrounds for all children. Some say that an inclusive playground costs too much money to install into all schools and most playgrounds, but you can always start by trying only one piece of equipment to be inclusive, because every step matters. An inclusive playground is a special kind of playground that is lower to the ground and has wide walkways for ramps and ramps for walkers and wheelchairs. Instead of wood chips on the ground, inclusive playgrounds have poured-in ground that is smoother to walk on or wheel over. The ideal material is a rubber blend or cork surface. Inclusive playgrounds are very important for children who cannot play up on the higher playgrounds because they can build cognitive skills. They can help children without disabilities learn how to treat children with disabilities. And they can help all kids have fun on playgrounds. We should make more inclusive playgrounds for children with all abilities. My most important reason for having inclusive playgrounds is that all children can have fun on them. There is an example of this from the website Parenting Special Needs Magazine, whose goal is to educate parents about the ways to engage special needs children. The website wisely says an inclusive playground is intentionally designed so that children of all ages and abilities can play, be challenged, and have fun together. It is important to know that all children of all ages and abilities are able to play on inclusive playgrounds. When a playground is lower to the ground, it is way easier for children with differences to play. Also, little kids who can't play on big playgrounds have more fun on inclusive playgrounds. All children need stimulation during their childhood years to prepare for things later in life. And an inclusive playground is a great way to do that for children with disabilities. It can provide things that children need, including challenges, skill building, and fun. The Blondheim family, who are mentioned in an article from Post Crescent, has a child named Teddy who has special needs. Carrie Blondheim, Teddy's mother, explained how he loved playing with his brother on an inclusive playground nearby. Carrie was interviewed by Madison Lambert for Post Crescent, and Carrie said, "When he has a playground that's accessible to him, he radiates joy. He gets the freedom to play without being told, 'No, you can't do that,' or 'No, that's not safe for you.' It's freedom to learn through play versus constant redirection." It is important for children to all feel that freedom and joy that Teddy does while playing on a playground that's built just for them. It is also vital to notice how much independence Teddy has while playing on an inclusive playground. Children with disabilities don't have the same restrictions on an inclusive playground as they would on a normal playground, but can help build up their independence. My second reason for inclusive playgrounds is that they help kids without disabilities learn how to treat disabled kids. An example from this is from Voice of Play, an organization devoted to the importance of play for children of all abilities, so that they can develop skills and experiences that they can benefit from their whole life. They send messages to millions about why play is so important, and they state that 92% of parents agree that playground play helps children learn to be inclusive of others who have different abilities and backgrounds than their own. This is an extremely high percentage, which show how people do believe that inclusive playgrounds and having children play on them impacts how inclusive kids will be towards children with differences. If all children could learn how to treat kids with disabilities at an early age, it helped them be more inclusive and accepting their whole life. Also, inclusive playgrounds can help kids with disabilities make friends at an early age with kids without disabilities. Another source is from Eco Play Structures, an organization that focuses on building safe and inclusive playgrounds. They wrote an article explaining how inclusive playgrounds encourage empathy and understanding by having children without disabilities play with and interact with children with disabilities. Something to focus on this is that children without disabilities can gain empathy and understanding from inclusive playgrounds. I have a personal experience with this because my little sister Dolly has Canavan and goes to school and loves it. She has so many friends who are all so nice to her and they all play with her at recess. I think Dolly has really impacted those kids and grown their empathy and understanding. When children don't play with disabled kids, they won't know or understand what to do when they're around them later in life or how to treat them. While when kids do play with disabled kids, they can make friends with them and they would know how to play and hang out with them. Also, kids would learn how children with disabilities take longer to complete tasks, and kids would learn to have more patience with them. Some argue that inclusive playgrounds cost too much money to install, and there are other ways to use that money. It is true that some schools don't have enough money to install a whole new playground, but the fact is that if you go slow and take it bit by bit, you can eventually have a space where everyone can play. This is shown in an article by Madison Lemert called Inclusive Playgrounds Provide a Safe Place for Children of All Abilities. Here's why that's important. She interviewed Erica Seltz, who is a Wisconsin sales representative for Little Tikes Commercial through Northern Recreation. And Erica said that a lot of different aspects of an inclusive playground contribute to the costly price. Things like ramps of steel, board and rubber surfacing can be variables to the cost. So, a solution for schools is to add inclusive features to playgrounds gradually. The part to pay attention to in this is that even though it will take a while and maybe cost some money, schools are still willing to put up inclusive playgrounds. Even if it's just one piece of inclusive equipment, it's still a step in the right direction. Also, when you actually bring the cost into the picture, you go slowly, maybe making a new piece of inclusive playground equipment every few years. The cost could be spread out and much less of a debt. My final reason for inclusive playgrounds is that they build cognitive skills for children with disabilities. Cognitive skills are functions that your brain uses to do various tasks, including how to pay attention, process information, and remember things. An example that shows this is from Cunningham Recreation, a website that supports making more inclusive playgrounds to help children with disabilities develop vital life skills. They wrote an article that said it's important for children with disabilities to develop and use their cognitive and sensory skills outside of school, and that inclusive playgrounds are a great way to do that. This is important because kids can't be in school all the time, so they have to use their skills in other places. This could be easy for some kids, but it's usually very difficult for kids with disabilities to find ways to use their developmental skills outside of school. Also, some kids with disabilities don't go to school, so they don't get to use their cognitive and sensory skills anywhere, which could definitely have a negative impact for them. Fair Industries is an organization that cares about the passion for play for children of all abilities. They have an article about the benefits for children with disabilities get from inclusive playgrounds. It says inclusive playgrounds benefit things like sensory, cognitive, and social skills, and it mentions inclusive playgrounds often incorporate sensory-rich experiences that stimulate cognitive development. Activities such as exploring different textures, sounds, and movements can help improve sensory processing, problem-solving skills, and creativity. Something that is important to note is that when kids with disabilities play on inclusive playgrounds, they can explore on their own, which majorly develops their cognitive skills and problem-solving skills. If a disabled kid can go on a playground on their own without a parent constantly there, it can help them build up their confidence. Also, when kids get to be in a sensory-rich environment, it can help develop independence along with experimentality. All in all, it is important to remember that there should be more inclusive playgrounds where children of all abilities can play, because they can build up cognitive skills, teach kids how to treat disabled children, and help all kids play. Even though some say that playgrounds are too costly, if we take it one step at a time and make playgrounds just a little bit more inclusive, we can make a change. Remember, this impacts many disabled kids and their parents all around the world. If you would like to help with this issue, consider emailing and writing a letter to a local governor about making more inclusive playgrounds, or contact your principal about making more school playgrounds more inclusive. When you make more inclusive playgrounds, it impacts men in the arts.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
That was great.
Beautiful.
I will note, Charlie wrote that as an essay for school,
Yes.
and your teacher,
Exposure.
she forwarded it on to us because we happen to know her. And everything you said in there rang unbelievably true. From what it means for kids. I went over to the park. I live on the park. I went over there before the meeting tonight and saw both, able-bodied and disabled children who were on the little merry-go-round that your family and the work family helped design, right? That input, that building a committee who told us, hey, you need some sensory boards and you need these sensory pods. And oh, kids love the little web swing, which I remember getting a picture of Victoria on the web swing, this enormous smile on her face.
I think everybody loves the web swing. I mean,
Right.
it's so popular.
But right down to the practicality of it is expensive.
Yeah.
And what we are doing here tonight is exactly what you advocated for, and that is phasing it. We completed phase one with the help of the state through a grant. We are here tonight to review and hopefully approve funding for phase two, right? And we have additional plans to look at, what is the future for anything else, outside of phases 1 and 2. But it takes a lot to go up to the mic. It was a beautiful essay. I don't know if you knew your teacher was sending it to us, but I want you to know it was incredibly well researched and hit all of the exact points that we are trying to make tonight up here. So thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, did you want?
And I don't know too if I.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. I
sorry.
didn't know. Is that Beth?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, and Charlotte's, I just wanted to also leave a story that really, Charlotte kind of made me remember from the park that maybe will stick with everyone. We were there and a little boy came up to us and he said about Victoria, he said, "What's wrong with her?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, what's wrong with her? Why is she in that?" And I said, "Oh, why is she walking in a gate trainer?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, nothing's wrong with her, but when she was a baby, she got a boo-boo on her brain, and that affected the part of her brain where she was able to move her body. And so she just needs a little extra help, but she can still run and laugh and play with you and all your friends, and joke around, and she still loves to do stuff just like you do." So some time went by, and then I see the little boy again, and I see him going over to his friends, and I hear him talking. He said, "That little girl there, her name is Vicky, and she loves to play with us, but she needs our help. Can we go help her?" And they all came over and started pushing her around to different equipment. And, it just that is the part of the playground to me that they learn about kids. They learn they're not afraid to ask questions. They're not pointing or anything negative, but they're saying this girl needs our help and we want to be here to help her. I mean, what kind of community does that build for people? So, Charlotte really made me think of a story like that. And it just I just think about it all the time and how impactful those kids are going to be when they're older.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or from the? I don't see any other hands. Council members, did you have any other further questions?
I have some points, but maybe
Okay.
questions for when we talk about the resolution.
Okay.
I don't know if it's time to bring it up now as it relates to.
Do it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so thank you guys. This was amazing. And thanks Beth and everyone for your
Wait.
comments.
Did you have another thing, Kirsten? Kirsten, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
I will find it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so no, I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's a no-brainer. I was already sold on the idea of having an inclusive playground, and want to thank Connor for the efforts. I know this has been 3 years in the making.
Just about.
So huge kudos to you for bringing this issue up. And obviously the benefits of having an inclusive space are tangible. They're very obvious, right? You can hear about them, you can see them, the transformation for Beth, for your daughter. It's very obvious. I want us to be the first playground for all in Montgomery County.
It has
right?
been submitted.
We should be.
Kirsten,
Yes, I see
yeah,
that shape.
Chris,
I also think though, the other points that are raised about the toxicity and the heat issues are a little less visible, right? You're not seeing the harm that's being done potentially. And I think there are risks that need to be considered. That's why I'd like us to take a serious look at whether we can do the other option of corking.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's any example of this. I don't think you had shared, Connor, in the materials when you shared.
no,
them.
but I can bring up a picture.
I mean, I know it's more expensive. We're talking about the price and the cost, and it's escalating if you add that.
I got lots of pictures of playgrounds here.
Yeah, and we have the pictures, but I don't know if there's any examples of a playground in our area that uses this. To me, there's an opportunity for us to really lead and to make a difference by doing both, by making it inclusive and also addressing some of the real, what I think are real concerns, but invisible concerns of the health risk when it comes to the toxicity potential, and maybe a little less so the heat, because we do have a lot of the shading. But the toxicity issue is a real thing.
Sure.
So
this is corking that you see on the ground cover here. This is its natural color. It's the color of cork. This is installed at King Park, which is in Hyattsville, right off of Route 1 by Franklin's, if you've ever been out that way in the Arts District. It was actually also installed by Playground Specialists, the same vendor that we use. In going around, it's been installed for several years now, and in going around and kind of, I wouldn't dare call myself an inspector, but looking at it, I mean, the only thing you see is a slight coloration change from the places that have had more direct sunlight versus the things that are shaded underneath different apparatus. But there were no breaks, there were no cracks. It's got bounce to it, so it's made up of typically about 5 inches of the under, like the filler, which is all core product. And then there's a top layer product, but like all poured in place surfaces, there's still a binder that has to be used to bind it together. It was extremely durable at all the corners. It's pliable. You can shape it around, and all the equipment that you have. Playground Specialists can certainly do this for us. Upsides and downsides, it's more expensive. We have different price quotes. This ground cover alone is roughly $85,000 more than the pour in place surface that we used in phase 1 for the exact same coverage area. That's just the quote. From a temperature, it happened to be 82 degrees, 83 degrees this day, and it was about 1 in the afternoon. So for second summer,
Yeah.
it was a fairly warm day, and it was absolutely cool to the touch. The playground apparatuses, so like that piece of equipment you see on the left with the metal was warm to the touch. The Corkine product was very, very cool to the touch. Whereas we had also been to Watkins Regional Park earlier in that day, where I'm going to show my wife looking silly. Sorry about that, Casey. This is Rainbow PIP. We can do it in all multiple colors. I could show you the video of it. First of all, amazing park. It's a Wizard of Oz thing that's truly unbelievable. But in direct sunlight, right, this was warmer. Not any warmer than any of the play structures, but certainly warmer than the ambient temperature. This was about 2 hours before, so maybe 11 in the morning. 11:25 exactly. But it, to Beth's point, it was cooler than the asphalt walkway that I walked in on. And, I did not have a temperature gun, but just putting my hand to the surface, right? Our walking track is going to be the warmest thing out in that park because it sits in mostly direct sunlight, and it's black asphalt. This was certainly warmer than the Corkine products. Sorry, Casey. This was, I guess, 2:45 in the afternoon, but peak afternoon sun. So we've also looked at all of the I think it's ASTA, the safety standards at ASTA, the safety standards for playgrounds. There's 2 big things that you look at with ground cover. The first is impact attenuation, so an 8-foot drop test. If a kid falls off a piece of equipment, will he be safe? Just compacted soil is not appropriate. You have to have some level of protection. So engineered wood fiber, does really well on that test. PIP does exceptionally well on that test. In fact, in the impact fall and with Corkine, they are all roughly the exact same, meaning they have the same level of protection. When engineered wood fiber is installed properly to the proper depths and maintained properly, they provide the same level of safety. The problem
maintaining is moves around.
Yeah, there's a big study by the Accessibility Council that found that the biggest problem with EWF or any loose fill material is that it gets moved around. And so it has these undulations that make for unsafe movements. They make for a natural barrier to accessibility, and they require constant maintenance, raking, watering, and then refilling annually, if not multiple times a year, depending on how popular the space is. But the other thing they look at is what they call stability. So that is how smooth of a surface is it, so that there aren't bubbles and there aren't large increases in elevation or pitch, and that's one where engineered wood fiber it fails. Where all PIP surfaces unanimously are exceptionally rated at that. And the other one, just from a maintenance standpoint, they have a SDS test, which is just how does it degrade over time. And over 5 years, the pour in place surface in these tests done by the University of Indiana, they all were found with minimal need for maintenance, some minor cracking that all happened within a warranty period, so it would be covered. Whereas EWF is within 12 months needs to be, as we know, we have EWF currently in the phase 2 area. Every year we have to refill it, and multiple times a year the crew is in there maintaining it, right down to the point where we had 2 major rainstorms, maybe 3 major rainstorms this past August that carried half of the EWF out of the play structure down the path nearly to St. Paul Street. And so with these larger rains, whereas the phase 1 area where we have PIP had, we had to, once we fixed the and put in the ramps, we didn't have that kind of issue. So.
And the Corkine also is more sustainable, right? Because it's got, from what you shared, I was reading, it's sustainably harvested off of bark and trees, and it also is carbon negative because it absorbs CO2. So
and it's non-flammable. There's a lot, all of these things that there's talks about, like the playground went up in fire. Yeah, these are fire retardant, naturally. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
can we consider it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when we get to the
Yeah.
ordinance, we can,
the mayor asked me to work with playground specialists with all products.
when you all have seen the documents
And
there. And the
it has a higher
difference.
cost. It does.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you about the joint where the 2 surfaces
Yes.
would meet?
Yes.
How did they propose to make that happen?
So in talking to them, if we go with the current pour in place material, right, they would pull back and more or less seamlessly sew the 2 together. With Corkine, he admits they will have to put in a joint, but they will make it, they do this all the time where there are playgrounds where they have pour in place with EWF, like they call them little lakes or rivers, right? They're making a design and they have to create these seams. Same thing would happen here. So there would be a small seam, but they've done these numerous times and it's all covered under warranty.
Is it the same warranty for both surfaces?
No, it is not. The pour in place that we have right now is a 7-year warranty. The Corkine product comes with a 5-year warranty.
Interesting. I can imagine the joint is where things would likely go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere where there's, call it a break in the flow. So a joint, around a footer of an apparatus, the only place, and it was not with either of these products. I want to say it was with another product that we are not considering, but there are certain playground apparatuses that are like chained to the ground, fixed. They're like.
So you're putting a hole in it.
Yeah, you're putting a hole in and it's like the cargo net thing you climb up.
Yeah.
That, because you have this movement of the thing, created a wear and tear. I wonder if.
But the playground equipment at the HOC has
Mhm.
similar problems with that, and you can see where they've added. Now they've replaced it since, but they used to add like fillers.
Yep.
And
That's a particulate.
PIP.
Yeah, that's particulate.
Yeah.
Whereas here, like I said, I mean, the biggest thing I saw, this is several years old now, but it's just this coloration issue just from direct sunlight.
But that playground equipment was actually put on an asphalt surface.
That was at
And that's they
HOC.
put- Yeah, the HOC.
You have more
Yeah.
questions? Connor, can you talk a little bit about House Bill 1147 and
Sure.
playground specialists compliance with that legislation? I think
So in 2024, the state of Maryland took up this issue and they looked at playground surfaces and wanted to create a standard for what was a maximum allowable as far as the components that make up these pour in place surfaces. And so they looked at specifically lead and they looked at other PFAS chemicals, and they set standards by which all of the you could no longer install a playground surface that did not meet or was better than the maximum standard set by the state of Maryland. So Playground Specialist, who is the vendor that we have used, took their 3 products, Corkine, Rainbow Rubber, and the PIP, and sent them all off to an independent testing laboratory. And all 3 of them passed all of those tests. They passed the fall test, which was not part of the chemical test, but they passed all of those chemical tests. And you know, the letter that they supplied us with was, hey, here's what we did, here's the lab we sent it to, and that, you know, we have verified independently with another lab that all of our pour-in-place materials meet the standards set by the state of Maryland.
Thank you.
We have a state delegate here. I don't know whether he wants to, did you do anything with the playground?
I'm a big fan of the court.
The court key?
Fewer chemicals, the better.
Okay.
There are a few hands up. And that's other questions.
That's all I have. Thank you.
No, I'm ready.
Okay, no, I'm really not taking any more questions if you've already had an opportunity. If you've not had an opportunity to speak, I'm happy to take another question. I think we have the information we need. We're not actually going to vote on it right now. Unless you want to, I can bring it forward. If you want to go ahead and do that now. We can bring that ordinance forward. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. We have the momentum going.
You like the flexibility.
Some people may still need to have dinner tonight.
You want to put more money? You can thank me for that.
Yeah.
All right, where is our ordinance for
It's number
that?
2 on the backside.
Number
R17 2025.
25. Okay, I got it. And 2025. Great. Well, we can, how do you want to do it, Matt? Do you want to just make an addendum to if we're, I mean, am I hearing that, if somebody wants to make a motion and a
So,
addendum to the,
yeah, we can amend the resolution, the cost amount to evaluate the cork
Mhm.
To the price. I think it's what? They
think
told
it's
us what,
210.
72,000?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay.
Can I also just say, I will obviously support that, but if we're concerned about the budget.
Mhm.
I know there were concerns raised about the phase 3 placement and where it will go, kind of coming into the circle of the asphalt. Maybe it's something we revisit just on the placement of that or even the size. So
yeah, I
maybe
think
some
phase 3 would have to be rethought.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it might save some money from
Yeah.
that we were going to allocate anyway for the phase 3, so maybe it wouldn't be much more of a.
I'm 100% open to reevaluating phase 3 for another reason, if I can throw it in, which is, so phase 3 is the idea of building another part of the playground, but what we call inside the walking track on what is the field now. And there were some really cool apparatuses that the families identified. But one other thing that was identified for me through the research, through Kirsten and Chris, through Charlie, your comments, is that maybe the idea and the budget that we put together for phase 3, you know, if part of it is to now look at Corkine, but if the other is to look at the makeup of the play apparatuses that are in the phase 2 section, and maybe make some really thoughtful changes with the help of our family committee of taking some things that are not inclusive now, maybe moving them around or taking them out and putting in something inclusive. I know like the duck and the turtle are beloved, but the turtle has not been there for a long time. And there may be things that to meet that idea of incorporating the inclusive apparatus with the existing apparatus so that we have this flow of play area for all kids.
How does that work though, if you put the Corkine down and then you start changing out a
So,
apparatus?
I would recommend not doing what I would refer to as the WSSC approach. And
I
instead,
mean, put it down and then tear it up?
if we were to approve the budget for Corkine tonight, that as of right now, we know we wouldn't even be on an installation schedule until spring of 2026. So to then go back to the vendor with that idea and redesign the elements that would go into, and then maybe it just may mean, Charlie, your point of phasing and delaying, you're gonna see a little strategic move here. Maybe we time it all up for July 1, where it's on our fiscal year changeover. So we have the budget we had set aside in fiscal year 26. We also have the budget for phase 3 in 27, and we kind of work around the timeline of July.
So are you saying not spend any money this budget year?
No, we should.
If we have the budget, Matt. This is 85 more than what we had budgeted.
So my concern is what do we do with the material we have now?
That was my question.
That is the biggest concern I have.
Yeah.
What do you mean, the material?
If the council decides that it's not acceptable, why are we keeping it? It was given to us through a state grant. Are we gonna have to return the funds if we switch that over to?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
There's a
we have-
lot of
we have
questions
to
we
go
don't know
place.
tonight.
No, I will say 100%.
We want to have to return
No,
the,
it's the spirit of a accessible playground. It is not, you are not set in stone with this is.
The
material.
particular product.
would we be penalized on a future grant from Community Parks and Playground if we were to remove a servicing that is less than a year old? That is approved by the state of Maryland.
But that servicing is replaced every year.
No, no,
Put in
no,
place?
I'm talking
Right,
about
about
the
the rain-
existing
Oh.
Existing
Rainbow
Rainbow Road.
PIP.
Oh, I'm not advocating to
No, no,
remove
not-
it,
not
just
saying-
phase two.
That's
Yeah.
the install. And,
Yes.
and yes, it would have been great had we known about the Corkine
I
before.
thought you meant because some of the playground, the existing playground in phase two area.
I'm
was
still
paid for.
concerned because the joint.
That's what I.
Mhm,
I am, and I don't know enough without talking to
Mhm.
Jeff.
mhm.
I am. I mean, we spent $177,000 6 months ago to put the surfacing down that is approved by the state of Maryland, that is okay and safe.
Mhm.
And now we're saying it's not. And we're gonna spend even more money to put down another surfacing that has less of a warranty on it. I think we have a lot of questions.
So maybe
We have a lot of,
postpone this and give this to staff to go back and, I mean, it would delay a spring start, but we're as the way you've been talking, we want to push it closer to the next budget year anyway.
If the vision of bringing additional inclusive apparatus into the phase two area, the existing current, playground area, that the one that has the EWF right now. I will say, and I will go on the record saying, Matt, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, this is
We
a-
have looked at this for 2.5 years. The pour and place surface that we have in phase one, I feel 100% comfortable with. And outside of maybe Beth, I think myself and my kids are in there more than anybody in this room. We live 300 feet from this playground.
Yeah.
Yes, the Corkine product has a lower surface temperature, but we also have a phenomenal tree canopy and shade structure. And if, in time we can add shade apparatus, I think the surface that we have in phase one, I think would be great. I understand that there are either concerns or desire to look at a more natural product. I'm open to that. But, I also think, guys, realistically, I really, the surface that we have in phase one is great. It is like the standard. It is the gold standard in the state.
I agree. I agree with Matt. I think there's serious concerns about the joint. That is a significant area of distance to
Play.
cover.
Yeah.
And if we start to mix materials, I'm concerned, and not to mention the warranty, that is a significant amount of difference. And this is not a cheap decision. So I think to some extent, the horse has left the barn a little bit on this. I'm not saying that should be the dispositive factor we weigh, but I think what we know, the state has set a standard. We've met that standard and we've documented that standard. I think it's sufficient for our purposes here.
just to throw this out there, phase three, if we get there, would most likely be separated than phase one and phase two. Maybe that's where we go with the Corkine material and come back in a few, I don't know. I mean, I'm very concerned. This is a lot of money that we put to this park, and now we're saying that it's not okay. I'm concerned. We don't have a ton of money in our parks to make a mistake on this. The jointing concerns me. We don't have enough information from PlaySpecs or Jeff. Maybe we take a step back and try to figure out what we're doing before we move too fast.
Can I just add, Matt, too? I think phase three, Connor, right, is in it's inner ring. That's
Yeah.
more sun drenched.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, man.
But no, go ahead. No,
And-
But yeah,
continue.
So that might be the atmosphere where we say, oh, there is no shade here. Any shade we create would be years down the road, and therefore the surface might need to be different.
Mhm.
But phase two is very shady. I don't know, 70% shady.
Yeah.
And so I think the temperature concerns is much less with phase two.
Okay, Charlie, if you wanna, you have to go to I know, sorry.
Yeah. You can ask why we gave Jared a pass.
I know. Well,
I'm sorry, Delegate Song.
So so if sorry. So what would the plans for the different kinds of inclusive, I don't know how to say it, like you know that you're gonna,
Equipment.
yeah, like
Yeah.
like what would those options be instead of like the yeah.
Yeah, so phase 3 was initially, like, the big feature there was what they refer to as the pirate ship. It's this ability to go on, I probably have it electronically too, I can put it up. But, you know what, I will put it up electronically. It is multiple different apparatuses, the spider web, but a pirate ship that you can roll a mobility device on, whether it's a wheelchair, a walker, and it rocks back and forth, and with benches. And I've used these in a number of parks, both here and in Mississippi, where my wife is from. And it's really cool. And you know, I gotta say, it was kind of number one on the list from the parents committee that helped, of like, hey, when we go to a park that has this is where everybody plays. I'm gonna put it up. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once. I'm gonna show that one.
Yes.
So your point, Charlie, is okay, if we, and these are computer renderings, I just want to say, the computer renderings don't show any trees. That's so that they very clearly show the pieces of equipment. So this is over here, this is what we refer to as phase 1. This is complete right now to about here, with the pour in place surfacing and these pieces of apparatus, right? A sensory pod, some sensory boards, sound boards, the in-ground merry-go-round, and then the swing set bank that Kirsten and Chris were talking about, as well as benches and other things for parents and caregivers. Phase 2 is this is what we refer to as kind of our existing playground, but it has engineered wood fiber. Right, this
Zoom a little
back left. Oh man, you would. Just only because the mayor asked.
Yeah, okay.
So back here, you know, we have our little fire truck and the teeter totter, and we're just talking about phase 2 is just to replace the ground cover. Phase 3 is this part here. We have a walking track that you see here that goes around, and this would be what we refer to as like inside the ring, inside the walking track. To Councilmember Sparker's point, there is no tree canopy covering this, except for like in the very late evening, when the sun is kind of setting. So this is direct sunlight. If we were to move forward with phase 3, agreed, a product like Corkine that has got a lower surface temperature rating. To Charlie's point, if we were to move the budget for these items and therefore maybe not do a phase 3 inside the ring, what would we do? Well, that's where we're going to need help from you and, you know, the works and your folks of, hey, what might we put in over here? Because I will say, this is one consideration from a budget standpoint. The Corkine product itself is like $165,000. And that's without the timbers, and that's without the base fill, and that's without all the other stuff it needs. It's like a $210,000 quote to do Corkine. It's a premium product. It is expensive. And does that mean it impacts what we may do in phase 3?
So more than like, we've been at this for an
Yeah.
hour. We do have other things on our agenda. It's an important issue. I do feel like that a lot of these details should probably be hashed out between the council at a work session. I don't think we're gonna get any further than this, because we feel like we need to rethink this whole thing, the cost, the phases, because it does feel a little weird to put down a very expensive surface and then to go back a year later and add apparatuses that you take something out, you replace it, but the cork is now disturbed. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Charlie, I'm gonna give you one more.
Sorry. As you guys are talking about how the step 3 would be where it would be hot, would you consider, I saw in some of the pictures earlier with the canopy over it with those, is those like an
Well, what you're seeing on the TV that's not our park. That's just a drawing. So our park, as you know, has a lot of trees.
Yeah.
So I don't think a canopy would really work there because of the tree canopy itself. So But yeah, but that would be also part of the discussion, but I think this issue is going to require us to sit down and hash it out. Because I don't think we can pull together any changes in this resolution tonight.
Yeah, and bottom line, we should not delay putting this in past the spring or early summer.
Agreed.
So that's number one, but
Well, the
If we
only
could-
problem with that is they do have, I mean, the
It's a
longer
long
we
schedule.
take, the further it's going to
Yeah.
put it off.
sure, but I think you already said we might want to push it a little bit later anyway to align
Right.
with the budget, next year's budget, but it should go in and it should be inclusive, but if we can work through some of these questions around the joint and the real concerns around that, but then also the toxicity. I think these are, like you said, we already did phase one. These issues didn't come up. It's evolving. The research is evolving, and I wasn't privy to the information, so I didn't have that information when we were voting on this in the first place. So new information has come, and I think we can do it right by both issues, but you know.
And I think having Jeff there to talk about the joint and what they can do and how, you know.
And
what
I'll
that
ask him
works.
if he's got examples from other playgrounds, photos and things we can see. What I've shared just for the benefit of the group since it's come up, is, and I don't want to be called a liar later. This is an aerial view Google Maps of St. Paul Park. Phase one, where we poured the PIP,
Or under those trees.
it's right here. You cannot even see our playground. There it is 100% tree cover. In fact, where these little numbers are is where, I don't know if I zoom in close enough. That's where it is. What we're talking about here is you can see this is maybe a quarter, a third, quarter of what is there now. There's one little teeter-totter that's out here in the sun. This part does not have direct tree canopy. The rest of this has 100% tree cover. So there is some area that would, have more sunlight than others. To Councilmember Sparker's point, though, it's, say at least 70%,
I'd give it more on
100%
this.
convert. And that's why I really feel like the PIP product, I mean, that teeter-totter that's there now gets warmer than the ground cover. But, and then phase three, if done, would be located here. And this is why we talk about like that we know has very limited tree cover. I mean, really, it's only when the sun is just about setting that this gets shaded. But so I bring that up just so maybe it's, you don't want to get in your car and check it out. Now you see why, when we looked at it, we felt very good as far as the ground temperature issue.
Okay.
So
All right, so we're gonna
move it to a work session.
move it to a work session.
You need to do anything?
All right, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Chris and Kirsten. Thank you very much for coming. And we may be calling upon you again for maybe some guidance on other apparatuses that we can add to the park.
Thank you so much for having us. We're always happy to help.
Thank you much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this forum. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So, piece of paper in front of me.
That's a lot. There's a lot.
Okay, well, that was actually a very good discussion. I know it took long. I'm sorry for those who are on, but I really do appreciate it. We do have Delegate Solomon here. I know, would you like to speak to anything particular tonight? I know you talked to Nate earlier today and he said you might
Yeah.
stop by.
I invited Delegate Solomon to come if he wanted to maybe say a few words about the recent pedestrian
Yes.
tragedies.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. You all have been just absolutely wonderful partners on everything state highway administration related. Obviously, our community is bound by several very large state highways that were designed in a time when the community looked very different. And we are constantly trying to play catch up. So appreciate the partnership, and I want to recognize obviously we had two really terrible tragedies within the last, I guess now it's been about 2 weeks. Obviously, James Anderson, and then Miss Prajabhati, who was also struck and killed in the Wheaton Central Business District. In addition to, I know we had another 4 or 5 community members who were killed tragically on our roads over the summer. So I think I know that the council has seen, and I hope it's been making its way around the community as well. The District 18 delegation put together a letter sort of outlining next steps in specific on University Boulevard, as well as really what we think are a whole host of really positive steps that the State Highway Administration is either currently undertaking in the Wheaton-Kensington community or has recently gone in. This includes, sorry, there's a lot of stuff in here, so I had it up on my phone. Things like a new signal on Beers Mill Road at Pendleton Drive. We have a recent added signal at Beers Mill and Norwich Drive. We have a new signal that's coming in hopefully at the end of this year at Price and Georgia in downtown Wheaton, and a whole host of other areas where we're going to see new speed cameras going in. We're going to see a reevaluation of school zones on Beers Mill to better accommodate the Newport Mill and Einstein communities. And we have made changes on University Boulevard, but to a certain extent, for every one intersection that we make an improvement to, there's probably 10 more that could use it, and a new stretch of road that needs to be reevaluated. And this one is particularly painful because many of us have been advocating to make changes to this road for a long time. We did see some improvements. We had speed cameras that went in. I think, as most of you know, the police department typically rotates those cameras. So the cameras that had been on the western side of University Boulevard near the St. Paul intersection had been taken out probably about 6 or 8 months ago, and we're in that rotation. They are now, thanks to our team efforts and advocacy, they are now back. It looks like a spaceship. But I will say, kudos to the MPD. Their whole automated enforcement program is actually almost completely different. New staff in there, and so they committed. They just actually signed a new contract. They are now essentially sole sourcing and running the program themselves, as opposed to before, where they had a vendor who was doing everything that frankly was doing a terrible job. I won't go into the gore details, but there's apparently a significant amount of fines and fees that they're waiting to be paid back. So the county has decided to go and do it on their own. And they just received their first batch of cameras literally this past week as of October 1st. And that intersection, that location was literally the first place where they put a camera in. We had also worked with SHA to narrow the lanes, to lower the speed limit. I think at one point the speed limit on the road was actually 45. It's now 30. Again, all of that's to say it wasn't enough. And so, we have had a long meeting. We had a long meeting last week with the District 3 team of SHA to sort of talk through potential changes to that stretch of road. I had a conversation with the State Highway Administrator, who expressed to me his concerns, and to make sure that we knew that it was on his radar as well. So there's a couple of things. I won't go into a tremendous amount of detail, but certainly on the table are additional hawk signals and protected crossings, specifically at obviously St. Paul, but along that entire stretch. Even if you put a hawk signal in at St. Paul, there's actually no additional signalized crossing on that stretch of University Boulevard until you hit Valley View, which is where you turn into the mall to get to Giant and to
I think
Costco.
there are like 3 pedestrian crossings up till you get to the mall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're in discussions on additional signalized crossings in addition to the hawk signal. There's an ongoing discussion about, and I know the town has been really engaged in this, potentially reworking the sight lines and actually the geography and geometry of that stretch of road, which obviously, regardless of whether you're a pedestrian or in your car, the sight lines are terrible. It's really hard to get out of the town over there. The other piece that they're considering is something that, I think many of us have been in conversations with for a long time, is some sort of a road diet. And folks will remember the pilot program on the other side of University from Georgia East.
They should have started on our side. It would have been so much easier.
I don't disagree with you there. I wish we could go back 5 years.
Sorry.
But so that original pilot the plan was to have that continue through Georgia, through the other side of University to connect into the trail network and into the town. Because of concerns and issues on the other side with a very different group of engineers, frankly, at SHA, they wound up pulling that pilot program out. But there are still plans in the works. And so they're in a very preliminary conversation. Our hope is that we will have some kind of a public town hall either shortly before Thanksgiving or shortly after, where SHA can sort of share more of their plans, similar to, I know some of you may remember the horrible incident that we had at Saul. The plus side of that was it led to a complete reconstruction of that intersection, which is night and day from what it was before. we had a community meeting where SHA came to the table with ideas that the community could react to, the community could share their thoughts on. So it wasn't just, we hear you, we'll get back to the drawing board. It was actually, we know this is a problem and we're working towards solutions. So we want to give them a little bit more time to bring those solutions to the table. But we want to make sure that community members have an opportunity to be heard. Obviously we're all heartbroken. And so, again, our love goes out to the families. It's just unspeakable. And so we're going to do everything we can. We know the State Highway Administration feels the same way. We know you all feel the same way, to make sure that this does not happen again. And that we do everything we can to make our roads safe for everybody, not just our kids, but seniors, anybody who's walking, and frankly, anybody on the road. This every collision is just an opportunity for lives lost, whether it's in the car or on foot. So appreciate the couple of minutes, and again, appreciate the partnership, and happy to take.
Well, I was up in Wheaton this morning, and I was probably around 11:30 coming back towards Kensington. And let me tell you, I was probably with about 10 other cars, kind of get brake lights coming up to that speed camera. I mean, everybody was like, oh, they know it's there now, and they were slowing down.
Well, and I will say, so this new program that the county is running will allow them, they've purchased more cameras, which is a major positive, so they won't have to rotate as many, because while, sometimes the cameras are rotated to sort of keep drivers on their toes, cameras are a safety feature. When you look at what we've done on Connecticut Avenue from the Circle with DC all the way up to the University Split, yes, there are a lot of cameras, but when you talk to folks in the Vision Zero office and in MCDOT, the change in patterns of collisions, it's stunning. Wade's last name, Wade Holland, who was our Vision Zero coordinator for the county, told me he almost didn't believe it the first time he looked at it recently, that it was like down to zero in terms of collisions. And that's because those cameras are there permanently. Obviously, a complete restructuring of Connecticut Avenue would have cost billions of dollars. And so cameras are, a not perfect solution, but they certainly help. And so now that the county has a more robust camera program, they won't be rotated as much. And we have made it clear to them that we do not want these cameras rotated anymore. And so hopefully that will continue. We also have a piece of legislation that I sponsored, will allow more cameras in more places on sort of the high incident or high injury networks that the county has. So there's sort of the 90 locations or so in the county that, even though they account for only about 3% of the roadways in the county, they actually account for about 41% of either the fatal or near fatal collisions. So it gives them the ability, gives SHA the ability to say to the county, we're good with you placing them on these roads, even if they're not carved out. So some of you may know, who have studied this stuff, not every county is authorized to have speed cameras, and they are only authorized in very select locations. Montgomery County is a little bit more expansive than most, but it's still fairly limited. So that passed, and then another piece of legislation that went into effect as of October 1 is a graduated fine schedule. So clearly, if you're going 40 miles an hour and you get a camera ticket, you should not get the same ticket as somebody who's going 12 miles over. And, I know the mayor was at our press conference. I just have to reiterate this for the thousands of people who are watching. You do not get a speed ticket unless you are going 12 miles over the speed limit. So these are not revenue grabs, and a 12-mile-an-hour speeding ticket, 12 to 20, I think, is literally $40. So this is not a revenue grab. We are not DC. I admit, I think I got a speeding ticket recently going 10 miles over. DC's laws are different. It was over $100.
Yeah.
So we are not the district. This is not a revenue grab. This is about safety. But if you are going 40 miles over the speed limit,
You're going to get a big
you
ticket.
deserve to get a $400 ticket.
But you're not telling people to go 12 miles per hour.
No, I am not. But if you have a slight itch in your foot and you're going 6 to 10 miles over, you will not get a ticket.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go first.
Oh, just real quick, I want to say thanks for coming and doing all that, because I was going to try to give a summary of what we talked about today. But one thing Delegate Solomon and I talked about was this idea of the town hall. And I know that it's going to take a little bit of time to put it together. I agree, it should be a public forum where people can express their concerns, their views, but then also wrap it around the proposed schematics or whatever of this, what the road diet or lane diet will look like, because we know that they've done the study. So hopefully they can have it around that. But I know there was some question about whether it would be at Einstein or maybe Town Hall. We offer Town Hall. I said, why don't we just do both? because people from, from Kensington Parkwood community will probably be more likely to attend here. So that was the one thing. And the other thing was that I did ask Jared if he thought it would be beneficial if we still sent a letter.
Mhm.
And I think the answer is yes. So I
Okay,
think we could still.
Yeah.
just to Secretary Pine or?
Certainly, yeah, certainly can hurt, yeah, and I know they, he has been copied on, or has been the recipient of a number of the emails that we've been copied on, and again, I had a separate meeting with him about something else, but it was a couple of days after the tragedy, and he actually unprompted said to me, I know what's going on, this is terrible, we're working on it, let's set up a separate meeting. Fortunately, we literally had already had something on the books with the District 3 folks, so
Right.
it's clearly, I think I talked to the State Highway Administration probably more than any agency in state government lately. So, the reason we want to wait on the town hall, to Councilmember Engel's point, is we want to give them the space to have something that the community can react to.
Right.
And so, but they are very clear, they don't want to make any decisions until the community has had an opportunity to really vet things and make sure that they feel like they're a part of it. I
Okay,
think they've
well,
learned
I will
from-
leave it up to you. We will make this building available, but
That's
it would
very
be
kind,
up to
yeah.
you and SHA on whether you can handle 2 meetings. I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
It's a busy time of year, before Thanksgiving, so, you just let us know.
Yeah.
We're there to support you, but I do feel like the Einstein community especially should be a priority at this moment.
Yeah.
And, I know, James went to Wheaton, but he lived in that community as well
Yeah.
and attended school in that community, so I think that's more important than, ours and,
Yeah.
but, we could do a follow-up later if necessary.
well, I mean, and the thing that I will give SHA credit for, and again, why this sort of hurts even more for a number of reasons, is we had just had the Wheaton Urban District and the Mid-County Advisory Board convene a meeting literally 10 days before to specifically talk about Wheaton Kensington issues, and it was driven a lot by some of the local PTAs, and so we had a long, extensive conversation. That's where a lot of the more recent commitments came out of. It's things we had been talking about, but we got, it was a very collaborative meeting between the community, the delegation, the county, the police, and State Highway. So we sort of had all the players on a Zoom together to make sure nobody could point fingers at one another, and there was very, a lot of collaboration. And so it's just, again, for every 10 things we get, there's one that we don't. And
Right, well, I appreciate the amount of time that you put into this, because I know we've heard from Rock Creek Palisades, supporting on Connecticut Avenue further down. I mean, these are your roads, but we want to be influential, we want to be helpful as much as we can. So, but I know you're putting in the work, and it's not easy, and there's, I mean, unfortunately too, it's like the playgrounds, there's not enough money.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing too, because it's not just our community, it's the entire state of Maryland that we're
Yeah.
trying to make sure people don't get killed.
Yeah.
So we have to think of that too. So-
Thank you very much for your advocacy.
Yeah.
We really appreciate the quick action. I immediately, to Mayor's point, everybody was like, there's a bunker. Have you seen the bunker they put in? And it's sometimes that's just, being conspicuous is helpful. So we really appreciate that. And I'll carry that back to the committee and the folks that reached out. Thank you.
No, I actually got text messages from folks, I guess it was this weekend, because to the police department's credit, they've also stepped up enforcement.
Yeah, we've
that was a
seen them.
priority,
Yeah.
that Chief Yamada made clear, and I got text messages from people saying, why is everybody getting pulled over on Fires Mill and University? And I said, because you've asked for more enforcement.
Yeah.
This is what-
Not because you're running stop signs at a park.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why.
Just
I cannot thank you enough
Seriously.
for the work that I mentioned it when we were walking in, that I knew we didn't ask for it, but the amount of enforcement, I'm gonna use St. Paul Park but
Yeah.
around that park, day and night for the last week has been amazing. Now, a lot of it's warnings right now,
Yeah.
but the point is, it is bringing attention to drivers that they are rolling stop signs, they are accelerating out of a stop sign too fast, or they're just flat out speeding.
Yep.
And I cannot tell you how welcome the additional enforcement is. A couple, Stuart, anything more?
no.
A couple of things from you. Again, I'm gonna act for it because you do deserve it. Thank you for your advocacy.
Mhm.
Working with SHA is difficult. Every partner that we can get matters, and you have been an amazing partner. And so as the messenger, I am going to pass this through you, which is one frustration that I just want to make sure we air is that we try very hard here, and I know Nate and now Stuart's gonna do it, Darren before them, for years working with SHA on issues and priorities around the town where we see safety and built infrastructure problems, and we bring it to their attention. And it takes literally years. And then worst of all, when things finally get to a point where they are approved by SHA, then they go into a queue for delivery or construction, which in itself is like 5 to 7 years long. It is unacceptable. And what's worse is that we sit here and we tell them face to face, if you guys don't do something, it's going to result in tragedy, and that is the only time you're going to take action. And now we're here.
Yeah.
Now it has resulted in tragedy, and I'm appreciative of the immediacy of returning the police camera and the timing that came with the escalated fines and the improvements that the county now has more tools in its tool belt. But SHA, and I know it's the whole state, and I know our engineering group and what they do with PG County, maybe it's just too big, but it takes too darn long. It just takes too long.
Yeah.
The second concern I have is, and it's more question, I have not been able to figure out, I looked at the high injury or high impact network map. It is Connecticut Avenue south of the town, it is Connecticut Avenue north of the town, it is University Avenue east of the town. But the actual town, even though it's still state highway roads, is not a part of the HIN network. Can you figure out why that is? Is it because our speed limits are lower? Or traffic
So
bottleneck?
yeah,
It's a legitimate question, like why is there a carve out for the town?
So, well, let me respond in two ways. So there is the there's the network that sort of forget exactly what the state highway administration calls it. It's like their priority pedestrian areas.
Mhm.
That is the state highway administration's designation. And they do that based on a number of different factors. The county's HIN is solely, I believe, based on the places where there have been collisions. So it is solely, and you may want to double check,
Okay.
and certainly we can double check with MPD. And I don't have it with me, but we have like a 4 or 5 page data sheet. We haven't worked on the bill for a little while, so it's not fresh in my mind, and I believe that has the criteria in it. But I think it's solely based on the number of collisions that have happened on roads, and so they literally just take of the 800 locations across the county where there have been fatalities or injuries or collisions, whichever locations have the top, they have a cutoff of the top 5%, and those are the 80 locations where they have them.
Okay. And then the next is,
and again, that's only to allow, that gives them the ability to put cameras. Not every HIN location was a place where they couldn't have put a camera before. So for example, and I always get these mixed up, it's like, you can either, I can't remember, I think you can put it in a residential neighborhood, but you can't put it in a business district. So there are certain HIN locations where there have been serious incidents, and because it's technically considered part of a commercial district, you can't put a camera there. And
which would make sense for why because where those roads all converge is our quote town center.
Right.
Okay. We'll double back on that with you, but then the other one is just a consideration, because I know you worked on this as well. You referenced the accident at Saul and Connecticut, and quick action was made. And I know Chevy Chase View also advocated to get a camera installed there, which is there now, right, for northbound. But there was a issue, I know when we were working with them, because we were collaborating on, hey, we'd also like to see just the roadway speed limit reduced.
Yeah.
But apparently there's an issue that you couldn't put the camera in and reduce the speed limit because the traffic study that was done to approve the camera would have been invalidated. So if somebody wants both to reduce speed and cameras, why can't we accomplish both?
So I think you can. It's just a matter of sort of the sequencing. I think, like we were talking about with the playground, I think it's got to do with the sequencing. So they have lowered, example on University, that speed limit was lowered. It went from, I believe it went from 45 or 40 to 35 and then to 30. there are still speed cameras there. It also may have something to do, I mean, that is, I will say, that is probably a more detailed question. I mean, it might not be a bad idea to have Chris Tippery come, who runs the automated enforcement program for the county, who will literally talk about this until the cows come home and be very happy about it. You will learn more than you ever wanted to know about automated enforcement.
He hasn't met Connor.
Oh. You guys will get along.
Without getting into the weeds.
There is no reason why it can't be. I think it's just a matter of a sequencing or making sure that, you know, obviously the whole point is to ensure that the camera is actually going to be effective. If there isn't speeding there based on their study, they're not going to put a camera there. But they often go hand in glove as well. I mean, in many of the locations where we've been successful in getting cameras placed, they have also lowered the speed limit. Like the Connecticut Avenue example further up, that was a question posed to the State Highway Administration and to MPD of, let's lower the speed limit and then let's put a camera in there as well.
Last question, and this goes, I know it starts at the state laws, but then flow down to the county. What is the future ability in Maryland and then for Montgomery County to be able to do automated enforcement of stop signs? The district has now started it. It's a little patchy, but
don't quote me on this, but I believe we passed a pilot program.
Yeah, it's not very big in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
It's pretty small.
But it was a first step. So similar to the pilot program that we approved for noise modified for cars, I think it's the same thing. I want to say it was either Delegate Charkoudian or Delegate Blakovich Carr that was a sponsor of the bill. And so I don't know where we are in that pilot. I feel like it was, and Mayor, maybe you know this better. I don't remember if it was last session or the 2024 session, but my sense is that
I think it was the 2024 session.
Okay. The county is probably, it also may have been caught up in the fact that, so again, Chris can give you more of the gory details, but the previous vendor was sort of the vendor that every jurisdiction used to provide cameras. They were atrocious. And so they also provided, in addition to speed cameras, they provided the red light cameras.
Yeah.
And so in severing ties with that vendor, the county, I believe, becomes, if not the first, the largest jurisdiction to sort of run their own program from soup to nuts. They're obviously not building the cameras themselves, but although they do have some of the technology and some of the platform construction, that has opened up, I believe, a whole new, according to Chris, sort of like a whole new opportunity for the county to do different things. And my guess would be that if they haven't already started rolling out the stop sign cameras, it was probably because they knew they were in the process of changing their vendors and didn't want to, like, in addition to the cameras improving, they're also trying to make the customer service piece way better. Then instead of having to go to a clunky website, the new tickets will literally have a QR code that you can just scan and pay on your phone. So I don't know where they are with that, but again, that's why we authorized it, because we've heard loud and clear. I mean, my neighborhood, literally at the corner of our house while the kids are waiting at the bus stop.
Yep.
People fly through. It's sort of a running joke in our house. We sit in our den and we watch people blow through the stop sign at Kent and Wake. So yeah, we can check on the status of that. But it may not be a bad idea for you to invite either Wade Holland, who's the Vision Zero coordinator, or Chris Tippery from MPD to a future meeting or a future work session to give you all the details.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, or I can just connect you and you can give him a call and he'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean,
for as much as
I think our main frustration too has been, I know Nate has felt it, is that the people that we work with from State Highway on a quarterly basis come and go. And then you're always starting again at the bottom to, get them caught up.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten anywhere, I think, since Joe left, Joe Mokes.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one.
So I mean,
I know they're busy. I get
no,
it.
I mean, we share your frustration. I wish I could say it was somewhat different for us. I mean, they've just sort of recently refreshed a lot of their staff, who seem to be fantastic. And we have a regular quarterly meeting, just District 18 with the District 3 team, to go through literally a gigantic running Google Doc that we have of places all over, that, again, we literally do not get off the Zoom until we've gone through everything.
I would hope so.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's what we
I hope you
did.
have all-
Ours
Yeah.
ours is
No,
smaller,
that's-
but
You've been on some of our calls with SHA. so-
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
I will-
hopefully you have the same list.
I will always say that, you know, if you feel like you are not getting anywhere, you all know that you have 4 of us who will go to, you know, go to the mats for you. And yeah, I mean, I wish I had a better answer. I do feel like, for whatever it's worth, over the last year in particular, there's a new tone in SHA. There's a new energy to try to make these more proactive, to analyze our roads in a much different way, as opposed to waiting until the community raises a red flag, that they are looking proactively at places. I want to give Administrator Pines credit that I think he has tried to instill some more systems in SHA that for years went unbuilt, and frankly neglected. And I have found SHA to be incredibly responsive of late. Over again, I would say probably about the last year and a half, we've made progress on a lot of stuff. It's not enough. And you know, it's hard to turn the Titanic on a dime. And when
Right.
you've had a decade of neglect and, you know, inaction, it's not even a year and a half of good work isn't enough.
yeah, because some projects aren't just about safety. It's like we're supposed to extend the queue on the turn lane at Metropolitan at our Pliers Mill to get to Metropolitan, and it was ready to go. And then when we talked to Secretary Pine, he said, "Nope, don't have the money for that. That's off the table." Okay, that's keeping traffic going,
Yeah.
you know, and so
Yeah.
I mean that was a little frustrating too. So
Well, we should all probably put our heads together and just refresh what's still out there, because obviously, you know, one of our priorities last year was to fix the Transportation Trust Fund. And, you know, as people are saying, an increase in the registration fees and some of the other vehicle related fees increased. The reason we did that partially was things are not cheap anymore. Costs across the board have risen, and we had about $1.5 billion, $3 to $3 billion, depending on the time horizon gap in the trust fund. And we have now fixed that. And so part of the reason that was so important is, yes, we want to see new things built across the state, but we also need to take care of and maintain what we have already.
To that end, the October 1 change to the escalated fee schedule.
Yeah.
When those, you know, when automated enforcement now generates tickets and maybe they're higher, value tickets, remind people, where does that funding go?
That is an excellent point. That money goes right back into, and it is actually mandated by state law, that money has to go back into improving road safety. So, and I know the county is working on, a much more, I think, detailed accounting of some of that money. Typically, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's pretty clear. The program costs X, tickets only bring in Y, so the program is not, and the county spends, 8Y on their road improvement budget. So clearly the revenue is not covering what they're spending on road safety. But I think for transparency purposes, it would be better to have a clear accounting. But that is, again, black and white in state law. That money, it is not. Oh, thank you. I have my water bottle over there. I just left it. Fellow parents will appreciate, 2 small children, basically incubators of germs.
That's why you're standing over there.
You all know what you're doing. But yeah, no, the money is required to go back into road safety.
Right.
Which again, we don't have enough.
any other questions from the council?
It can be thankless
Thank-
work.
thank
so
you
thank
again.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right back at y'all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
You get to get back home in time for the Phillies game.
Oh, and I know Saturday's a busy day for you, but make sure your kids are watching the Kensington Volunteer Fire Department
yeah.
parade down Kent Street.
Just gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going right by your house, you can.
So they're not rolling the stop sign.
Yeah, they're probably rolling through the stop sign. It is a parade.
Well, and congratulations to the team that won the poll this past weekend.
Yes.
Oh, and one other roadway related item that I was going to remind you all of, because I was on the CAT team meeting earlier tonight. The Purple Line, probably already seen it, but Jones Mill at Jones Bridge will be closed for 2 weeks, starting at the beginning of November for the final leg of the Purple Line construction for the bridge.
Mhm.
So for 2 weeks,
Don't go that way.
I don't have much of a, you know, they've closed every other road to St. John's.
So from, I believe it's the 2nd of November to the 17th,
Okay,
but
No.
then. it
Well,
should be
that's-
about done.
that's progress. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jared.
Thanks so much.
Jared, going to the carpool chat right now. Thanks, Jared.
Can't go that
See
way.
ya.
Okay, well, we're just chugging along here. I think we're still up.
Surely.
Well, I'm gonna take
It's
this,
the wrong night to do it.
I know, I'm gonna take this opportunity since it's 9:15 to do public appearances. So if there's anything that's on the agenda that we haven't even talked about yet, that you would like to bring up, this is your opportunity.
I just want to say thank you because I know how hard and sometimes thankless it is to be on a municipal council. And I've actually really enjoyed listening to your meeting. It's been very interesting. So thank you. I know you
You're
get
welcome
the
back
big paychecks
anytime.
at the end of it.
Thank you.
Every month.
Yep.
Cool.
Joe?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if there's any additional work to be done on the new crosswalk at Kensington Parkway and Littledale Road. This was recently laid out, and I just wonder if there are other safety features that will be added to this, perhaps faux brick pavers or signage in the middle of the street. The reason I ask is that drivers, motorists come up very quickly on that crosswalk. They're not used to it either. And I was wondering if there's any way to improve the sight lines, to improve the warning to motorists that there is a crosswalk there, a new crosswalk. The signage that exists, that has been put in place, is pretty close to the crosswalk itself. So I just wonder if there are other improvements that are intended or planned or proposed for this.
Okay, Matt, do you have the update on
I
that?
do. The crosswalk is temporary. It's actually just paint. There will be a mill and pave of the entire intersection. It is related to the mill and pave job on Hadley and Washington Street with regards to our storm drain project. We're hoping to have that done later this year, and then a permanent crosswalk will be installed.
Okay.
So I don't have a time frame. We're hoping it's related to the WSOC sewer issue we're having with our storm drain project on Hadley. So we cannot pave until we clear that up.
I know there was a stop sign at Littledale if you're going north.
There's
Was there
east-
south?
There's east and west cross traffic stop signs. There's no north and south.
Okay, so,
We have flagged that for our traffic engineer to evaluate for an all-way stop,
okay,
That's
but
good.
not until,
Not until it's.
you've done the
Yeah.
repaving?
yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you for those updates. Another question. I just wonder if the town is planning its annual street sweeping anytime soon.
Not right now. We're gonna move into leaf season without the street sweeping.
So the street sweeping won't take place this year?
Not in the calendar year, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, yes, Leslie, go ahead. Yep, go up front.
Well, Leslie Olson, Wheatley Street. Because the whole topic of playgrounds came up, I just wanted to mention, I know there is concern about the encroachment into the inside area of the wall. And I would like to see that, given some more attention, public hearing, whatever, from the people who do use it, who don't have small foots, and that's a considerable number of people. And then I think everybody could have a chance to talk about that. Because now you're maybe considering not doing that, but also maybe doing it different time, anyway. And I know this is on the agenda. I don't know if I could say the whole thing, but the contract is for the property that's we've got this kind of.
You talking about the M&T property?
Yeah.
Yes.
The number 4, the deed of property, talks about, it's got some restrictive covenants, and it talks about permission from the village, and also notice to an address, which I think is where the bank is currently located. If I don't get to stay here, I just thought maybe I would just.
You think we're gonna go really late tonight?
Yeah. not, no,
That's just the draft.
so.
That's.
yes,
that
the-
needs to be amended.
Yeah, the town attorney is still working with M&T Bank. This is just the draft. We wanted to provide some kind of draft contract. This is not a
Okay.
final contract.
I
Sue
thought
Ellen-
maybe that was a boilerplate.
No, she's still working with the
Okay.
M&T. This is just for something that we want to at least have something out there right now. So
Okay,
it will be final at some point once,
Well, before January.
yeah,
Oh.
before January.
okay. And my third thing is, since the stop signs came up, I did notice on University that the sign indicating crosswalk is literally right there where the crosswalk is. And I'm wondering if there is a requirement that the sign be so far ahead of the crosswalk.
Warning you
Yes.
that the
Yeah,
crosswalk
it
ahead.
mentioned about the signage, and maybe there is a requirement like a stop sign, you can't park close to, there's a certain number of feet, maybe, I don't know, but every single crosswalk, all 3 crosswalks on University, there's the sign, and you're driving regardless 30 miles an hour, and all of a sudden there's a not very well painted crosswalk.
Yeah, there's the
So-
one at Perry Avenue too at University that's really kind of, I mean, that's like 8 lanes of traffic that you're crossing there. It's not too many people do that one.
I can answer maybe just to say that I know that while maybe not ideal from our perspective, just from my time on the Traffic and Mobility and Traffic Committee and PBAS and working with some of the traffic engineers that are part of that, there's strict design standards I think the state uses to place signage. I mean, they have to adhere by the rule book. I forget what it's called right now, but I mean, that's just the way they have to do it by design standards wise. But I know that sign that you're talking about has been knocked down in the past, and we've actually on our walk audits have notified SHA that it's been down. They've had to put it back up because I think people bump into it, I guess. But yeah, that's the reason that they're placed right there. Again, I'm not saying that's necessarily from our perspective the right placement, but
Well, maybe,
It's-
I don't know that there's been a change or something, because a little warning that there, in some cases, there are signs that say crosswalk ahead with an arrow.
I think
Is that closer to schools?
No, I
And
think-
then there is
I think you're
another
right, but
crosswalk that says, this is it, this is the crosswalk.
right, and I don't know the parameters that would determine that, but I know you've seen some where they actually put it on the road in front of you, so you can actually start to see that the crosswalk is coming up, so they can signal it on the highway itself. So maybe there's other ways of asking for signaling as they put in this high visibility crossing.
The crepe myrtle in front of it's not helping me.
It's- No,
Thanks, Leslie.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks,
Okay.
thanks for sharing those.
And thank you for getting all those signs up. I've seen them around town. It's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
She did October, Earl?
She's one of
She's
them.
one.
Yes. Lots of hard work.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for everyone on public appearances. So let's go ahead and start on any sort of reports that our council would like to give. Stuart?
Yeah, I would like to report on the Walktober. We have happy to report Walktober is in full swing. You may have been driving around town and seen a number of signs that we've identified with some fun facts. There are 22 signs around town. I'd like to give a shout out to Leslie and Marla and Carol, who really took the bull by the horns and got that off and running. We've also set up a website that posts with a QR code that's on the board. So if folks want to submit a picture or some kind of walk improvement they would like to see, we can gather that. Comes to my email, and I'll share that out with the council once those come in. And then at the end of the month, we're going to select a winner and give them tickets to the home tour June next summer. So we're excited about that. So there's also a messaging campaign you'll see coming out. We've worked together to develop some updates for the town that'll go on the listserv. I think we've got them scheduled for regular cadence. I think you actually one should be going out either tonight or tomorrow, and then pretty much weekly the rest of the time. So so we're very excited about Walktober, and of course we're trying to be respectful of the recent tragedy, but it's an opportunity to highlight just how walkable our town is, but there's room for improvement that we're trying to effect. So that's great news. And I really want to thank everybody from the PBAS committee that kind of really pitched in to make that happen. Second thing I want to flag for folks is our parking task force. We've done some work. Speaking on behalf of Ann here, while she's not here, Ann and Joe got together with Matt. Thank you, Matt, and Alex too, for your help. We have started the hard work of putting together RFP to potentially ask for a vendor to come in and do a formal assessment of our parking in town. Before we issue that RFP, the intent is to do an RFI, request for information, out to industry to kind of give us to fill in some of the gaps we just don't understand, that we don't really know, and make sure that when we do put out a request for proposal, it's actually something substantive that we can stand behind and move through quickly. So I think Ann has provided her comments and edits on the RFP. I am still trying to get through the RFI. So we look to get that probably out to the rest of the council for comment, probably by next week, I would say.
Okay.
And then we can move forward with the RFI. So Matt, heads up, we'll be coming to you for putting that out on the street here in short order. So thank you again for all your support on that. Yeah, and I want to say thank you to the mayor. Thank you, Nate, for your advocacy with District 18. After James was hit, the woman who provides my childcare for my youngest was the first person on the scene. And that was and her son, 17-year-old son, was there as well. So that was a very traumatic experience. And so I've been keeping them updated because obviously they're very interested and knew the family well. For folks who are at Kenmont, family was at Kenmont pool community. So anyway, I want to really appreciate the mayor jumping in and understanding where we're coming from and advocating for a forum. That is really appreciated. I think that is something that will go a long way. I want to acknowledge the Einstein folks who have a 1,700 signature strong petition for advocacy on this specific topic. So while we don't represent them, we want to be good partners. And so I think there's strength in numbers, and I'm glad to see Delegate Solomon come and he's obviously knowledgeable about the issue. He is engaged, and I think it just speaks volumes to his leadership. So I really appreciate both of you jumping in and advocating on our behalf. Our constituents really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jared definitely has taken this on more heavily. So I think than the other. I mean, everybody's involved, but I think Jared is definitely kind of handling this issue. And he's doing a really good job, and I feel some of the frustration, but that he is.
Yeah, it is a hard hill to climb.
We've been there.
So thank you very much for all the partnership. Really appreciate it.
Great. Okay.
Nick? Thank you. I'll be very quick. I've been gone for 3 weeks, so not many updates. Just one on the townwide food waste collection. I know we had a little article or a little blurb in the journal. We're constantly getting feedback, largely positive. I think there's some quibbles and some negative feedback about the program, but just to say again to everybody, we're listening, we're trying to learn, we're trying to gather information. It is a transition period. There's a learning curve with all of this. So please keep giving your feedback. Let us know how we can do things better. If there's tips, people are sharing nice tips around the listservs about how to, keep the cans clean with double bagging. And
that was a really good kind of conversation people had. It was very positive and nice. It was good.
And I think it's going to take some time, but I think I'm excited to hear when we get the numbers for the from ecology on what we're displacing in terms of
we got an invoice on Monday, but I didn't look at it. Look at the numbers.
I knew that you have time probably, but maybe by the next council meeting we'll have a chance to dig into those a little bit more. So that's all.
Thanks for doing that. I will get people there. It's really it's good for the environment. It's good for everybody. It's really.
Well, the county's going to push us to it anyway, so we might as well get the head start, and we'll be pros by the time the county introduces it. Countywide.
Speaking of the county, I've started to see a lot of the now with the leaves just starting to come down. A lot of the leaf blowers all of them are electric.
Yes.
So
well, not all.
Not ours.
No,
but I've seen all
there was one in the HOC lawn when I came home, and it was a gas power.
Okay, well maybe I haven't seen enough, but anyway.
Yeah, there's still a few out there.
Okay, thank you.
Just two updates. One, first, just a quick one. Myself, Councilmember Ingle, Mayor Furman, Matt, and Alex met with Montgomery County Parking Planning. This was just the initial kind of administrative meeting. In their budget for this year is to start the amendment process to the Kensington sector plan. The plan was, last approved in 2012, but so much has changed since 2012 as far as the county's general plan, as well as all of the dovetailing plans underneath it: pedestrian master plan, bike master plan, transit plan. This is going to be a multi-year process. They were very clear about that with us, that this will be a very public process. There will be many, many charrettes and public engagement meetings, looking at a lot of data. Also, talking with the town on, the priorities that we see both from a traffic and from a pedestrian and multimodal flow perspective. But just to let people know that in a handful of months, they should come back to us with kind of the beginning of a timeline and kind of a call for information. And then we'll start beginning to schedule some of the initial public information sessions. So just pay attention to the newsletter and council meetings. We'll keep people up to date on when those are going to start to begin. The second is just
not until well into 2026.
Yes, this is after the holidays and into calendar year 26. Thanks. Montgomery County Public School boundary study update for the Charles Woodward cluster. Earlier this week, they released what is called round 2. It is looking at 4 new options. This is entirely different than the 4 options that were released in round number 1. These are just affectionately known as options A, B, C, and D. Because in round 1, they were options 1, 2, 3, and 4. They were very to keep them simple.
Only you would notice.
No, we noticed it too. And I was like, of course, there's 5, 6, 7, 8.
So here's the big takeaway. There's, just like in round 1, there's all sorts of data worksheets on the county's website. There are interactive GIS maps where you can turn on and turn off your current boundaries and your articulation pattern. You can turn on each of the 4 subsequent options to see where you would go. The takeaways from the initial meetings: the entirety of the town of Kensington is kept together in all 4 options. We will articulate as a town with our nearby non-incorporated areas, but the entire town stays together. And in fact, in all 4 of these options, our articulation patterns do not change. We would articulate the elementary schools were never to be touched during this boundary study, so we still go to Kensington Parkwood. We would then articulate into North Bethesda Middle School, and then we would articulate into Walter Johnson High School in all 4 options. It doesn't mean that people shouldn't review the information and advocate and write letters about what they find positive about that. For those in KP, the one thing is there is split articulation from KP, but this is largely because there is a small boundaried area west of 355.
Off Tuckerman, right?
Right. Behind Georgetown Preparatory School, that is to be sent back to Luxman. Well, I shouldn't say Luxman, that'll come in time probably, but into Tilden Middle School and then the new Woodward. They were brought into Kensington Parkwood years ago because Tilden didn't have the space, Lux Manor didn't have the space as an elementary school, and there was no Woodward. So they were coming over to KP. Now Lux Manor has had a capital project. It kind of jumped over Garrett Park because it didn't have the capacity either. So that is something that, seems to be just being moved back. I mean, these are within the walkshed for that neighborhood into Tilden. So all I know is for us, they all stay North Bethesda and
Wasn't there
Walter
one
Johnson.
we went to Silver Creek?
That was in round 1.
Okay.
In
not
round
this-
1,
I thought
yeah.
I saw that.
In
Okay.
round 1, there was one option that would have moved our middle school assignment to Silver Creek, but then back to Walter Johnson. In these 4 options, they are all 4
anything.
North Bethesda, all 4 WJ.
Okay.
So there's a couple of more online sessions. The feedback window is open for a month. So you have 4 weeks from last Tuesday to take the survey they have online to submit feedback, write an email and submit feedback. I would encourage that the town, just like we did in round one, maybe put together a quick work session and look at those 4 options in our letter from round one and draft a follow-up letter of, our viewpoints on these new 4 options.
When is the letter due again?
They haven't, all they've said is that the survey will close 1 month from when it opened, which was the 6th.
So the letter wouldn't be too far behind.
Probably
that.
not. Mhm.
So if we're gonna hold a work session to talk about playgrounds, we should probably add that.
Join it together, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not gonna.
So looking at their timeline, which I can bring up here because I screenshot the whole meeting. Here we are in the refined options, and the feedback survey is out through October. 1 month, so the first week of November, they'll close the feedback, they'll start to synthesize all of that feedback. In December, the superintendent, they will work to develop what will become the superintendent's recommendation to the Board of Education. That will go to the Board of Education in January of 2026. They will hold public hearings and solicit additional written testimony between February and March of 2026. And then at the March 2026 Board of Education meeting, they will take their final vote on the boundary options and select what they will be. They must complete this. This is what MCPS has mentioned in nearly every meeting. To maintain the timeline for all of the both operational budgeting, planning, and just like busing routes, they need to make that decision in March. So this timeline is fairly firm.
So assuming that we're all happy with no change, I mean, the letter should be fairly easy to write.
I think we should.
I know, I'm just saying, it
just
should
address
be
points
a-
we made and say,
yeah.
thank you for listening. And,
Okay,
Question, Connor, did they say that they had basically abandoned options 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were only gonna focus on A, B, C, and D, or these are still potential options? These are 4 new options.
That is the $1 million question. And the mayor and I had a meeting with our Board of Education representative, Julie Yang,
who happens to be the president
who is
of
the current president of the board, to ask this very quick, because we were confused. Is it now 8 options that they're choosing from? Is it, hey, as these options are presented, that's just what it is? And her point was, no, the first 4 options were used to gather feedback and insights from the community to synthesize that to build these new 4 options.
Okay,
So what I did notice in those is that a conscious effort, or at least an output in round 2 from the feedback appears to be that islands and tentacles, as they talked about, were so untenable and unworkable from an operations standpoint. Those don't exist anymore.
yeah.
It's largely contiguous areas as best they can around the middle school and high school locations.
There's a couple, there's one that has Einstein, basically, north of Einstein, but it goes all the way down to Silver Spring, a little wedge. I think
Yeah.
2, where it's a very long and
Yes.
skinny, and I was like, whoa, that's.
Yeah, there's a lot of like islands that they're
Yeah.
like grabbing from, and then
But it's
from
not
Woodward
like,
too.
here's one island surrounded by a bunch of other places and then going to a new one.
Right, so here's
Yeah,
the
this is
map
the one.
for option A that came out just recently this week, and you'll see those tentacles and islands now are largely gone. These
Yeah.
are fairly contiguous areas. We are, I know from
Green there.
studying this, this is our shark fin.
Yeah.
So this is our northern boundary along University Avenue. So this is the town right here. And so as you click through each of these options, there's middle school. So this is us in the light green, that's North Bethesda. As you scroll through option B, again, we are kept intact. So you'll see from the options, there's some subtle movements. That's what was expressed to us by the BOE President Yang, was that feedback really helped to just kind of subtly shift the edges. But one of the big results was to get rid of tentacles and islands.
Yeah.
But we still asked, okay, so does that mean the superintendent has to choose from one of these 4 options? And our point was, well, technically, no. because these four options now are on the table for feedback. So the feedback, they will synthesize that feedback, which is why I, advocating that we send another letter for why that the town's views of like what we really like about this and why it's important to us, similar to round one, so that they hear our voice again, so that if from that feedback, they make these minor adjustments again, that, hopefully our views and desires are maintained within that. Ultimately, it was also expressed that the superintendent can completely design an option that has never been seen by the public and present it to the Board of Ed. It has also been expressed that that would probably not go over well.
Said it would be suicidal.
It would be, so, Dr. Taylor seems to have gathered a pretty good pulse of the community, and he's been very actively engaged in the process. And so I think there may be some subtle, working around the edges of the round two options. But case in point, why it's important to advocate, both to our Board of Education members, but also, a letter into MCPS. So that's it.
Right. I just want to say a couple of things. I want to acknowledge that the town council has agreed to pledge $1,000 to the James Anderson Memorial Foundation when it is established. Thank you. We also, his funeral is on this Saturday, and the staff has arranged to have flowers sent to Holy Redeemer. I also want to acknowledge that we met with the Girl Scouts at 6:30 and cut the ribbon on the new seed and book library outside of Town Hall. They did a great job, and it's incredibly detailed on what they did as far as the seeds and everything else. So I've asked them to write an article for the next journal, which, by the way, the deadline is October 24th. I've extended it, so that will be a November-December journal, and then our next one will not be until February. So just so if you have anything happening in January, you should put it in the November-December.
October 20.
24.
Okay.
Yeah. I also want to, I talked to Glenn Kessler from Compass, and he asked about looking into making Kensington an arts and entertainment district. I told him that we would be our designation, and I said, yes, we would be interested in that. And it's really basically bragging rights. That's about, what you get. So we like to brag.
We like to do that.
So he's looking into that, and will get back to us, but I think we would definitely qualify. So also I wanted to let you know that we have Lisa Carney, our archivist, has been working on 2 new history boards which will cover the Mizell lumber hardware store as well as the garage. And so there'll be 2 new boards. So they're currently going through a draft period, and there was a kind of not a big error, but we corrected one. I've corrected one. And so once that comes back, I'll share it with you all to look at it before we go to print. I do want to recognize the staff as well as Public Works for all the work you guys have put into all the events that we've had since Labor Day. We've had the 8K race, we've had the car show, we've had the Kensington Volunteer Fire Department's 100th anniversary. And this town is hopping. So we have a big weekend this weekend. I think that we have the costumes for pets on Sunday, and Halloween party for the pets on Sunday with the costumes. And then we have a new event, which is on Lord Dev, the shopping center on Metropolitan. Is having a little festival. We don't really have much to do with it except dropping off signage, but our barricades. But otherwise, this is something that the everybody's put together, and so that is also on Sunday out in the parking lot. And then, of course, Kensington Volunteer Fire Department will be having a parade at 1 o'clock on Saturday down Kent. They'll start up at Stony Brook and come down, and then they'll be out on Kensington Parkway in front of the Cabin Park for a few hours with all their apparatuses and showing them off. So hope everybody
Is it
has time to come
showing
down.
it off or is it a truck touch?
I think you can touch some of the trucks. I don't know. They have little towels that you can.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah. So anyway,
fun.
so
how did you just like to crawling?
yeah. And I do. So I want to really shout out you staff, because this is a lot of work and for what you guys have to do. Even if you're just putting out barricades and no parking signs, it's a lot of work. So thank you all. Okay, so let's move on to the town manager. You have anything you want to report?
All my comments are in ordinances, resolutions,
Okay,
and
so
regulations.
let's move on
You know,
Already?
to well, it's only 9:45. All right, let's see. So we are go ahead and do one then.
Council, before you this evening is ordinance number O-05-2025, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing the acquisition of certain property located at 10415 Montgomery Avenue. That is the M&T Bank drive-through property, Kensington, Maryland, for a public pupurpose. The public record closed at 4 p.m. this past Friday, October 3rd. We received no additional public comments. We're requesting that the council approve the ordinance this evening. I would also like to note, Town Attorney Ferguson is continuing to work with M&T's legal counsel on finalizing the draft contract. They have requested the closing of December 18th. This should work with our phase 1 contract that we signed earlier this week, where they have to go in and do an environmental study of the existing property. So it should work. So I'll just reference December 18th should be fine. It's okay with us, staff, so.
Thank you. We'll get it
Okay.
set up.
Okay.
Does the council have any questions about the ordinance?
I do.
Okay.
Matt, in
Yes.
section 1 on page 2 of the ordinance, it says here, therefore being detained, ordinance enacted, and then skipping down to purchase price of $930,000 on substantial terms, outlining the attached contract for sale. Then this for use as public parking within town's business district. If we stake ourselves to be public parking in this ordinance and we deviate for some other reason in the future, is that problematic, or do we want to potentially broaden this to be like for the use that the town?
So I will defer to Sue Ellen. This was discussed prior to.
You're
on
on the.
So we are, there's some limitations that they asked us to put on. Town Attorney Ferguson, if you want to just clarify what you and Howard Block agreed to, at least what we believe they agreed to.
You're on mute, Simone.
There has been a concern on the part of the bank about the purchase price that they would be able to obtain for the property, and the fact that the parking was right across the street, they believed, and the main office was concerned about that option not being there once the town did the acquisition. So there are particular requirements that are now included in the contract of sale that reference this. And for a period of time, the town is promising to use the property primarily for parking. And then to continue that, there's a period of time that's required, and then there's a period of time after that, during which the town can decide to use it for something else, but has to give notice to the bank. And I'm looking at, there will be another document that will reflect this that has to be recorded also. So the timeframes are that the property for 10 years will be used for the public parking and related uses. And then there's a restricted covenant for a period of 15 years following that you'll continue to be used for public parking and related purposes unless it's terminated by the town for a compelling public purpose with 6 months notice, in essence, to the then owners of the property across the street.
Okay.
So that was, those were the conditions under which M&T agreed to go ahead and sell at the purchase price without requiring the town to go through the condemnation process.
I think originally they wanted, what, 20 years, 25 years?
Yes, I think it was 25 or 30. Actually, it was a very long
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's been reduced. But they were concerned again that they would not get optimum pricing for the property across the street to which this drive-through was connected, if the parking aspect was not available for them, or at least for a substantial period of time.
Yeah,
So
that
we've
makes
been negotiating the amount of time.
That makes sense. Thank you, ma'am.
You want to add?
Yeah, it doesn't, but I don't know if I ever raised this question, but maybe someone else did. It doesn't prevent us from using the surface area on Saturdays as farmers market for
No,
vendors,
no,
right?
no,
Like
no.
that's not a use that's beyond park.
That's
Okay.
a very short time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, this doesn't preclude us from having public parking that we meter or have paid, right? Because we can still charge for it.
That is correct. You may
Okay.
charge for it. You can restrict it as you see fit. That just has to be public parking.
Good. And then the last question was just about the clause in there or whatever you would call it from a legal term about the for the environmental and physical investigation schedule. It says nothing about, it says you can't do boring unless you get written notice. I know that we probably wanted to test it for.
Yeah, we are.
Yes,
And
yeah,
they've given us the notice and
Uh,
that's not gonna prevent us from doing any of that.
it shouldn't. So we signed the phase 1 on Monday contract with ARC Environmental. They are putting together the questionnaire for M&T Bank. Once the questionnaire is completed by M&T Bank, they will go in and proceed with their test results. They may need to get inside and do some wall samples. Obviously, they need some core samples on.
Hopefully they'll let us do that then.
They should.
That's
Part of the.
Yeah.
The languages they need to give it written, they need to give us written approval to do that.
So that's within the contract, not the ordinance that we're looking at tonight.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah, the ordinance just allows the staff to proceed with the acquisition of the property. It's not the actual sale of the property quite yet. Town Attorney Ferguson's working on the contract with M&T's legal counsel for that actual transaction. This is just to give us the authority to move forward.
Enter into the contract.
Yes.
Right.
The ordinance does allow also the signing of the contract of sale in substantially the form that's attached this evening. And as noted, there will be some nips and tucks in that. And so we've been waiting actually a bit on the phase 1 to make sure that it's okay to sign off on the environmental provisions. Because if there's a phase 1 that's clear, then there really shouldn't be any problem with that.
Thank you.
One further question, sorry.
No, I'm good to go.
Is there a survey? Do we have a survey on that property?
We do not have an active survey.
Do we need to have one?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have an
There's,
appraisal. Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and there's also obviously deed references. There is an actual piece of property as it's described. The deed will describe the property, but surveying out where all those points are has not been done.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the audience? Which, Joe, you're the only audience.
Comments over.
Oh, no comment. Oh, sorry. Sorry. No questions, Joe. Sorry. Okay. All right. Can I get a motion?
Does this need anything?
Yes, I move that the town adopts ordinance number 005/2025, ordinance for the mayor with town of Kensington authorizing the acquisition of certain property located at 10415 Montgomery Avenue, Kensington for public purpose.
Okay, is there a second?
Just 1 second for absolute clarity that it's ordinance O/05.
So no.
Oh,
O for ordinance.
for ordinance.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Thank you. Do I have to reread it?
No,
Okay.
we'll take your correction.
I'm new here.
Yeah, second. It was a subtle.
Second,
Subtle
if
change.
you need a second again,
Sure.
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Sorry,
Thank you,
past my
council.
bedtime.
Mhm.
All right.
All right, two, we are skipping two, so we'll go down to three.
Before you this evening is resolution number R-19 2025. Just for reference, resolution 18 was adopted last month. That's why there's a number skip. Resolution number R-19 2025, a resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing the town manager to accept the proposal from Donahoe Construction for the town hall offices renovation project. Mayor Furman, Councilmember Crimmins, and Councilmember Sparker and I met with the Donahoe construction team. We did put out for pricing on this. We received two prices for the town hall. The prices came in at $405,000 and $332,000. Donahoe was the low price that we received. Staff is requesting $350,000 from council for the project, and just in case there's any change orders, so we don't have to bring it back to council. Town Attorney Ferguson and I will have to work with Donahoe on an actual contract. So please amend this if you decide to approve it, pending review of the town attorney.
Okay, so that you want to act to. I'm only confused because this one is on the short, not on the Donna.
I might have already had it written in there on this one.
So that's
I
why I'm
got too
asking
many
the
resumes.
question. You're confusing.
Oh yeah, subject to review of the final contract by the attorney. It's already in there. You don't need to amend this one. Shorb's the one we have to amend. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry, so for Nate, I was here for when we met with Donahoe
Yeah.
gentlemen. They were fantastic, very thorough, very detail oriented. I had like high degree of confidence in their work. There was a conversation we talked about whether or not there's a hatch to get to the roof. And there was a question of whether or not we need this hatch going forward. There's a $7,500 line item, which is on Division 7, number 31 on the actual quote from Donahoe here in the packet. How did we shake out with that? Because I had to leave before we could go through.
So-
Did that look like it had something that needed to be done?
We were going to move away from the hatch. They were going to do some decorative molding around the existing drop down ladder, and kind of work around it. If we got to the point where they realized they needed to redo the hatch options in there, that would be part of the change order, just in case we need it.
Okay.
So, yep.
Cool. That's great. I was making sure because I chose some stress about that.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have
Sure.
two quick questions. So thanks for that additional context, council members. So Matt, just a question, because you said there were two bids,
Two prices. It was not a formal bid. We reached out to two construction companies.
okay.
Mayor Furman, do you remember the name of the other construction company? It
No.
was the one that was recommended by the city of Rockville.
Yeah, City of Rockville.
Yeah, I can't remember their name. It came in at 405. We reached out to Donahoe. Donahoe gave us a bid of 332.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
just good. It's good that we got at least multiple prices.
yeah,
I was just curious because I know when we budgeted for this in FY26 is $160,000. That's more than double.
It's more than
Wanted
double.
to know what the escalation was due to, and also just to note, from reading their proposal, it looks like it doesn't include anything around permitting fees, other engineering fees if we need a
So we have an
structural engineer.
yeah. So permits are going to be filed by the town, which is standard for us. The engineer fees are going to come from the existing engineer from the architectural project with Margaret Upton's team. The budget that was based off of this was off of an estimated cost construction from the architect, which was off quite a bit.
Should we trust the architecture drawing? No, I'm just kidding.
My house is the same.
So this is why it's very difficult to figure out what things are going to cost, and we continue to have problems. It's the same
Yeah.
issue that the county's having with noise library. You go and get a price, and it's not what you thought it would be, and it is literally double what we thought this was going to cost. No.
Okay. What is that? What is it? Does it come out of the same budget line?
It's the CIP. We have the funds in the CIP to
Okay.
cover this. it is going to get very close. We do have 2 other projects we need to do in Town Hall within the current fiscal year CIP. That could get delayed. We have to repoint the bricking at the top of the building, which could go into the next fiscal year. At least right now, we're okay. We can handle it.
Okay.
So
When will it be done? When is it projected to be finished?
So we were told 4 to 6 weeks to start. Or
okay.
from notice to proceed. We're taking 4 to 6 weeks to generate material, and they were saying roughly about 8 weeks. Town staff would have to move out of the upper level. We may or may not move down here. We may move over to the St. Paul property. So
maybe by the end of January or February.
maybe
That's good.
see when they start.
Okay, thank you.
And they did say that it would not interfere with the use of the building on this floor. Or
Correct. It affects the 3rd floor only, and then Alex's office, which would be raised about 2.5 feet to bring to the existing plane. Everything else is just upstairs on the 3rd level. Won't affect the playgroups or anyone that has rented the drill hall. Will not affect our council meetings or any of the rooms on this floor.
Which in probably definitely December, January, February will probably be on soon.
Right. It would affect the parking lot quite a bit, which would be used as a staging area. There would also have to be a dumpster for the initial demo phase, which may or may not be put out into the parking lot. We may put it out on Armory, which we did with the parapet project a few years back.
Great, thank you.
Out of curiosity, would they stage closest to the building, like where staff parks, or around back?
So they'd probably stage where we park.
Yeah.
That's generally where we stage for the parapet.
Mhm.
I mean, we can work with that
Yeah.
on that. The biggest issue is going to be the demo, and then the window that, if you're familiar where Shirley sits, if you notice from the outside of the building, there's
There are
2
two
doors there.
doors.
There's 2 doors there. They're gonna rip the drywall out there and bring the materials through there, so they don't have to try to get it through the stairwell. So, and then that will be patched back up.
But that's a perfect Juliet balcony.
Yes.
Still time, we can get it in the court.
Yeah.
$150,000.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? What does Joe have?
Oh, he says no.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Joe. Man, Zoom is putting out new features.
It's new.
We had new hearts.
It was like, yeah, the heart's going up. That was kind of cool. All right, thank you. All right, there are any other questions from the council? I will take a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution R 19-2025.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Give Stuart the second. He used points.
Long way to go.
Did we say yes? Everybody said
Yes.
Okay, thank you very
Aye.
much.
Thank you,
Okay.
council.
All right.
Before you see, this is our last resolution, resolution number R-20-2025. Resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing a contract with Shore Landscaping for landscape maintenance services at Clem Kennedy Park. This is a long-standing maintenance contract that we've had with Shore. The pricing has now exceeded staff's ability to approve this internally, so we needed to bring it to council for approval. It is for $10,550.50, I believe, which exceeds our 10,000 limit. It is for maintenance. This is not for mowing. Clem Kennedy is for basic
Mowing or leafing.
Yeah, it's basic pruning, weeding, and two mulchings a year. Again, this has been a long-standing contract with Shore Landscaping.
Matt, with the tree and shrub care. All right, so, okay, so they'll be inspecting all of the trees and applying the applications. Just because, I mean, like the town's largest trees, and they are now caring for those trees.
I don't think
They are not
do
caring
that
for the
type of-
trees. They're caring for everything in the flower beds.
No, this is tree and shrub care,
Um,
once a year.
yeah, within the flower beds only.
Okay,
Within the
small
flower-
trees,
Yeah,
shrubs.
that's for the flower beds only.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could, this is the one that
Yeah, needs to be
I'm
amended.
requesting a short review, yes, on this one.
Yep.
Right, so after the amount of money, we need to amend and add subject to review by the town attorney.
Yep.
Any questions from the council?
Just,
Go ahead.
Sue Ellen, why the additional review? Is it because of the rollover period that they've got? Automatic rollover for the next year?
So I was a little concerned about that in the beginning, but not so much since you can get out in 30 days anyway, which is something that you do want.
Yeah.
No, I'm more concerned about insurance, making
Okay.
sure there's appropriate insurance and that the town's an additional insured. That's primarily what it is. And there's one other piece in there. I think there's an arbitration piece in there that's not good.
I have to say, since they've taken over the park, we've not had any complaints from our residents regarding how the park looks. The beds are, kept tidy and, if you're gonna have a garden park, you need people on the ground to make sure it stays out.
They're also doing some of the other tree work, right? Like around the median for Connecticut Avenue. They
Yeah.
want to-
Not for us.
Yeah.
No, that's a different contractor for us, but yes, we do have a contract. That's Mulherron Tree Experts.
Oh, it's Mul- it's
Yes.
Mulherron, okay.
Yeah, it was
Separate.
Bartlett.
I was
but
wondering,
now
is
it's
there
yours.
economies of scale of just bundling these together? Will we get any discount? If we-
We are getting a discount from Mulherron from what we were paying Bartlett to
Okay.
do the tree. Yeah,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
it's a significant difference.
Alright.
Yeah.
But Club
Short's
Trinity is the only park that we actually have this work done.
Yeah.
Because the crew can't.
It's a little bit more manicured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't do manicure.
But they do.
Scorched turf.
Well, that's what the gardeners in this town would call it, scorched
I
earth.
see them on that mower. and
I
say,
know,
"Oh,
it-
there."
yeah, or they would be filled with nandinas. It does have a few nandinas in it, sometimes they're actually even weed warriors will admit that, but. Or master gardeners will, but, yeah. All right, so if there are any other questions regarding this from the council? Did you have a question?
No, I think
Yeah,
Connor-
okay.
Connor does-
Yeah.
Anybody on TV, on Zoom?
Nope.
Nope.
I-
Okay, all right, could I get a motion?
Sure. I move that we adopt resolution number R-20-2025. A resolution of the mayor and council authorizing a contract with Shore Landscaping not to exceed $10,550.50, subject to review by the town attorney.
Okay, that's an amendment to that, what we're currently looking at. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All of those points.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, last item on the agenda, I just want to make sure everybody, Wednesday, November 12th is our next meeting. Need to make sure I have, hopefully everybody. Anne's not here, is anybody out of
There's
town?
a chance I might have a work trip that week, but
Okay, when would you know?
next week,
Next week, all right, if you can.
I'll let you know.
We also need to plan a work session.
Yeah.
Now Anne's not here, that makes it a little tough. I know she's not available next week, so I think that's what she said, so. Sure.
Join Italy.
Yeah, well, she's going on another trip when she gets back from this trip, I think, so.
So we're looking at the 20.
Well,
20th?
we should do it before the 12th, so,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
last week of October, maybe.
you guys tell me.
The week of the 27th is wide open.
And the question two is, it would be easier for staff to do this first thing in the morning,
Yeah, usually.
yeah,
If it works.
like 8:30.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Can we try on the 30th?
The 30th?
I can,
Or the, yeah,
Mondays and Fridays are really good for me to be.
Mondays
here
and
for
Fridays
some-
are good?
Halloween.
If you.
That'll
Well,
be-
then, oh, yes, we're definitely doing it.
We make a motion that staff has to be in costume.
Well, they usually are, so
Yes.
they usually have a theme. All right, so the 31st, I'm fine with Halloween. Everybody good with 31st at 8:30?
Yes.
8:30 AM, we'll do a work session. And I will let Ann know both dates. But
About an
hopefully,
hour,
in
an hour long.
Well, we say that.
An hour and a half probably, just in case.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would actually, I would do from 8:30. I would just say 8:30 to 10:30, just as a safety, since if we may talk about the letter too, or review the letter.
Okay.
But hopefully, the letter can have already been drafted.
Yeah.
And we're just,
Okay.
we could just do that.
And I'll get back to you about the travel.
Yeah, and let us know how much well. Okay,
Is anybody taking the lead on the letter? Who took the first draft of the?
I
first
think
one?
you did.
Okay,
I mean, I think you could probably take the letter that we wrote
Yeah,
and just pull
I'm
from
gonna try
that.
and pull together something quickly, through the weekend, so that next week everybody can begin chomping on it, so that at the work session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it in a Google Doc.
Okay, we can do it together.
Yeah, I don't think it, as I said, it should not be,
Oh, I think I am.
it shouldn't be too difficult.
No,
I mean,
okay.
since we're not arguing too much, we're
No,
thanking
no.
and supporting.
Yes,
more
we
than
agree
anything
with
else,
this.
so. All right, I just need a motion to adjourn. My God, it's 10.
I'll move to adjourn this marathon meeting of the town council of Kensington.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.